Hello, Internet. It's Thursday night, and you know what that means. The D is here. We're going to talk about a movie. Sorry, I have a whole... there's an intro that played, and I like us to be silent during it, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. I should have said something.
I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well, it doesn't
None
actually...
of us can hear it.
Yeah, it doesn't play the sound anymore for some reason. At any rate, hello, everybody. It's Thursday.
What is this show?
Welcome to Hey, Did You See This One?
Whoa!
It's your weekly show about movies that you may or may not have seen. We are starting a little late tonight, but that's okay because we have a fantastic guest. Please, everybody, welcome back to the show, Mr. Matt Philp, not Philip.
He's back. He's back and better than ever.
Yeah. I heard that noise.
Yeah, I have it set up. We got sound effects now. We got new backgrounds. We got...
No, that's because me and Jason were clapping. That's why you heard that.
We implanted that in your mind with our minds.
How many second time guests have you had? Probably a lot.
No, actually, only two other people I think have been on more than once. Oh wait, no,
Ben, Craig, Cass, and Tim.
Two-timer club.
Yeah, you're the second. You're the fourth or fifth second timer. But Cass came back twice in a row because we were doing musicals, and this is actually technically still our musical month, which is why we picked the movie that we're talking about today. And then a couple of the other people did Carpenter, and they came in for specific reasons. And I think this movie is an example of us picking you again for a specific reason, or asking you to return for a specific reason. And Jason, if you don't mind, I'll introduce the movie we're doing.
Yeah.
Chris, how's my audio here?
I think it sounds good.
Got these new earbuds, you know.
They sound great.
Gotta make sure they're okay. Okay. So,
yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah. This week, in the tradition of the last 4 weeks in a row, we've selected a movie that is primarily a musical, and this one's a little bit more of an unconventional musical. But it is a musical nonetheless. It is toe to tip, chock full of, or chocked full, or is it chop full?
Chock full.
I don't even know. Okay.
Just say it fast and with confidence and don't question.
And nobody will ever know.
That's literally what I do for public speaking. So
that's why I mumble so much.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying.
I don't know what I'm tanging.
And that's how you got your doctorate.
He looked confident while he was saying it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
And now he's a PhD. So the movie we're doing is a movie that I think is near and dear to all three of our hearts, but not just because of the movie itself, but because of the people in it, the people that made it, and the history that preceded it and proceeded it. Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny.
It's the pick of destiny, child. I've been singing the songs all day.
A movie that is more precious than a diamond on a platinum chain. Sorry to
steamroll you there, because I was just going to transition to the history.
I was just going to do a spoken word rendition of the entire song that you were screaming over top of me.
I'm sure that won't just stop us to a grinding halt.
All right, I won't do it.
If you could just do all the songs, in fact. But what we like to do each and every week here is at the top of the show, we like to sort of talk about our history with the movie. This is the history.
A brief history!
Wow. Jesus. You guys have upped the budget.
Yeah. Yeah, we hired a guy. To do that. His name is...
He's a very professional voice actor.
Cleveland Trotters is his name.
Yeah.
He's very prolific. You might hear his voice again throughout the show.
Who knows? That pervert pops up everywhere these days.
He's a real pervert. Right.
Before we go into our personal histories, I think maybe it be prudent that we give a little bit of history of Tenacious D themselves, just for those who might not know who they are, because as we know, I know, but not everybody does, and you can know that by looking at the amount of money that was pulled in by this film. Not a lot of people want to go see it, and I think it's because they have a niche audience.
I
I think
mean,
the movie was a flop,
the
but
The
movie.
movie was a major
but
flop.
they themselves are
No, yes.
popular.
The soundtrack for this movie, I believe, was like number 8 on the top 200 list, like before the movie even came out, and then the soundtrack went up even more when the movie came out. And I think that their DVD sales were massive as well. So I think it was just, for some reason, the Tenacious D fans forgot. They were probably all too stoned to remember the date. But Tenacious D is a band that is headlined by Jack Black, but also it's a duo. Kyle Gass is his lead guitarist. They are a comedy band, but their music is also excellent. They're not just making funny songs like the Hanukkah song that Adam Sandler put out. It's not that kind of stuff.
Or Lonely
They're
Island,
bangers
for that matter.
They're like, yeah, they're rock ballads that you can just jam to.
And if you were wondering about the history of Tenacious D, they actually have a song called The History of Tenacious D, which is not only in this movie, but is also on their title album from the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, if you want their version, but I'm giving Reality's version. The reality
they actually ran with actual kings.
With Across the Devil's Plain.
Yeah.
But they started the band in the 80s. They didn't really have an actual name for it. And eventually they decided on Tenacious D through a contest, but there's some weird stuff where like Tenacious D was one of the options, but it didn't win. I think like Axe Lords or something won, but they were like, Tenacious D is actually better. So they picked Tenacious D. But they ended up, writing songs over the course of years, just sort of like jamming together. And eventually they got a deal to make the HBO's television show with their first album. And that led to eventually the making of this movie. And many more things after that, which I'm sure we'll talk about throughout. But there was a TV show that came out a few years before this. Not too many. I think it was about like 6 or 7 years. Which is pretty funny in its own right. And I've rewatched it a few times, and I'll be pleased to let you all know that it's actually not that offensive in terms of like problematic humor. It's a little raunchy, but it's not offensive to many people. I mean, it didn't offend me, and you guys all know how easily offended I am. So, and neither did this movie. I was happy because in the era that this movie was made, they were still making movies that dropped a lot of offensive terminology that was even outdated for the time. But I'm happy to report that this movie is pretty safe for everyone.
Yeah, especially for 2006 when the raunchy comedy had pretty much dried up. But anytime they would come out, raunchy comedies were trying to outdo each other, and a lot of the movies of the era were the like the scary movie style Mel Brooks mashup, but post the good ones. Not Another Teen Movie comes to mind. Epic Movie, all those really shitty ones were the ones that were those were the raunchy comedies of the era.
Even the scary movies, you go back and it's like, okay, there's like 100 gay panic scenes in like the first 20 minutes of the movie. Anyway,
a guy gets fucked in the ear, I believe, which is definitely a gay panic moment.
Yeah. Anyway,
actually,
let's move on to talk about this movie. So that's the sort of brief history of Tenacious D themselves, but we can get more into the meat of it as we go along. But Matt, why don't you tell us about the first time that you saw Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny?
Good question. I don't even know. I feel like it was definitely, I was in university somewhere. I don't know. But I remember the anticipation leading up to it being very huge because I was a big fan of the TV show. I had the DVD of the TV show and their live performance that was on that DVD too, like Live in London or something. And they had like the biggest crowd. And that was like the first time I think I was ever exposed to them was watching that live performance. And I was like, oh, who are these people with this like saxoboom solo?
Well, that was like one of the great things about the first album is that it came with the HBO show. Like it came with 2 discs, and like
I have that here somewhere. It was like the HBO show, the discs, a live concert, and then some like random shit. And during this time too, you could find like bootleg albums of them doing like Saxaboom and their mashup of the two Beatles songs that they would end up re-recording like more recently. A little more history for you. A little more history.
Yeah, like on the DVD as well, like it had like the making of the album and a lot of like behind the scene footage and like how they made it. And I was a huge like Foo Fighters fan at the time. Like loved Dave Grohl. And he played drums on the album. And like watching them play live on like it was Letterman or something, and like Dave Grohl was playing drums with them there. I just thought it was so cool that they got him and he was involved in this like comedy duo.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the movie came out, I remember being so like amped for it, and then I don't really remember seeing it. I don't even know where I was.
Yeah, I hate to report to you that I think you and I saw it together, and I think that we might have smoked from the Devil's Bong before we went in there.
Neither confirmed nor denied.
Neither can I. That's why I'm saying we may have. I don't remember either.
Yeah.
I actually have no memory of seeing this for the first time.
In your memory, it's just a sandwich. Like How I Met Your Mother.
But like also like when I watched this movie again, and even when I watched the TV show, like because the TV show's on Crave right now, so I've watched it recently, like some random episodes. But it's basically the movie is basically like a bunch of their HBO episodes kind of mushed together almost.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of like the same sort of stories going on. So yeah, I don't even remember, but love it. I forget the question.
When did you see it first? What's your history with the movie? But I mean, we've watched it many times since, but I haven't actually watched it in years and years and years. And when I was watching it yesterday, I was like, oh, I forget so much of this movie, so many little bits that made me giggle. Jason, why don't you go next, though?
It's interesting that you mentioned the Dave Grohl connection, because it always struck me as odd that the Learn to Fly video was like funny and Jack Black is in it.
Yeah, and Kyle Gass is in it.
They're both in it, yeah.
So, you know, Dave Grohl has back then, like, Foo Fighters were just, you know, oh, Dave Grohl's that guy from Nirvana. I wonder what they're going to do. Now Dave Grohl is a rock legend. You know, obviously the Foo Fighters are a legendary band and they're amazing. They have that connection and it's great. He plays Satan in the original, or he plays Satan in this. I think Lee plays Satan in the tribute video originally. That
Lee has played Satan. No, Dave Grohl played in both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, but
Lee was Satan, I think, in the TV show.
In the TV show. Okay.
He's played the devil.
Satan sometime.
Anytime they can't get Dave to be Satan, they get Lee to do it.
Interestingly enough, I know this is kind of getting ahead of it, but Lee is Sasquatch in the show. And then this time it's John C. Reilly. Anyway, that's trivia. My first time seeing this movie was actually like opening night. I went with some friends. It's not that big a deal. But the part that I always remember is that the album came out before the movie. And I was such a big Tenacious D fan and just wanted more after that first album that I got the album and just like learned it backwards and forwards, and I was in the theater like singing along, and all my friends were like, how do you know the lyrics? And I was able to sing along because nobody else was in the theater. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those experiences where you're there with like 6 of your stoner friends. And I remember at the beginning when it's like THC, the audience is now stoned, I laughed so fucking hard. Like, I had never seen a joke like that before, even though stoner comedies aren't like new.
Yeah.
But
I like that it was sort of like a Ren and Stimpy style animation too.
I think it is. I think that little bit is done by what's his face? I can't remember his name. Kawakowski, the guy who did Ren and Stimpy. He's extremely canceled now, though. That said, over the years I would go and I would rewatch this movie probably every couple years. Safe to say. And I listen to the songs from it all the time still, and still know all the lyrics. And on top of that, I've done both Beelzebub and Kickapoo at karaoke just to
nice.
Fuck with them. It steamrolls the whole shit.
I used to always play Kickapoo on the guitar, which I have right here. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, me and Matt have performed the history of Tenacious D several times in public, and Explosivo. Remember we used to do Explosivo all the time?
Yeah.
And then I would throw guitar picks at people.
Yeah. When I was in a low place in my life, I I was doing some open mic nights in Montreal, and I played I played kielbasa sausage.
Right.
I've done that for karaoke. I've done tribute for karaoke as well.
Actually, didn't we do that at Caitlin's wedding? Kielbasa sausage, me and you.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh God.
The look on people's faces when you do
At a
kielbasa
wedding.
sausage is they're just.
We did it at a wedding with children
Yeah,
present.
what are
We
you
should not have
saying?
done that.
What are you saying to us right now?
I said the words butt cheeks in front of 8-year-olds.
I love you, baby. But all I can think about is Dianetics.
Wait, what's
I need lubrication. My dipstick is warm or something. I don't know. Can't remember the lyrics. It's been a million years.
Well,
we can't hear anything.
Yeah, your mic's not picking it up.
It's too quiet.
We should have. I think you can do live performance on Twitch. We should have planned a little better and had you just like rattle off all the songs.
Rip it. Yeah.
it is plugged into my computer into like a DI thing, but no, it's not gonna work.
Steve, it's your turn. I think. Did you sort of start us off by giving us the entire history of Tenacious D?
I didn't.
Tenacious
I probably saw it with you in theaters, yeah. But I remember I was working for a company called Inventa at the time, and they did promotional placements for products at like malls and Walmarts and shit. And I was doing Nintendo Wii, so I was going around with this like James Bond level briefcase with a Nintendo Wii in it. Almost getting robbed several times because they didn't have any Wiis anywhere, and everyone's like, "Let me buy that from you." I'm like, "It's not mine." That's
Have you never told me this story before? That's what?
I don't know. It never came up. But yeah, it was like a bulletproof briefcase with a combination lock, and like you could
was your hand like you had a
handcuff to it?
Handcuff to it. Yeah.
That was like the only thing they didn't make me do. But I would go into a mall and I would set up the Wii and get people to play it and stuff. But I had purchased the Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny soundtrack, so I was just driving around to all these different cities in Ontario, just listening to the soundtrack over and over and over for however long before the movie came out. I think it was maybe like 1 or 2 months before it came out. So I had learned and memorized every song before the movie had even been released.
I have vague memories of you in your car, like doing like Master Exploder, like
and doing it perfectly. Yeah,
yeah.
Me too.
Slow down, I'm gonna spurt. Sorry.
All right, contain yourself, soundboard.
More soundboard.
But I mean,
underutilized.
I did get really, really good at most of the songs in because I'm a fairly decent vocalist, but I'm not perfect. But because I was going around for hours and hours and hours a day, just singing the songs over and over and over again in a car that had like fairly decent acoustics, I got really good. I got really good at all the songs.
Steve, I'll tell you something I've learned about Steve over the years is if you get him doing an impression, it goes from like I don't know to like it sounds like you're talking to fucking Tom Hanks eventually. So impressionism, maybe that's something that you
yeah, I mean a lot of it is me imitating Jack Black's singing style, so I am basically just doing an impression of Jack Black singing, but it still works. And the same thing when it comes to Frank Sinatra. I can do like really good Frank Sinatra karaoke, but I'm just doing an impersonation of Frank Sinatra.
I had this thing in my 20s where people were like, "Hey, it's Jack Black" all the time because I vaguely looked like him, I guess, because I have a beard and brown hair. So
yeah,
that was
I never got that.
I can imagine you wouldn't.
But I do still sometimes when I do the Frank Sinatra, they'll be like, "Do you like do Frank Sinatra impersonations at parties?"
To the moon.
And I was like, "No, get me out of here, or buy me a drink."
You could do that. I bet you could just dress like a crooner or whatever.
Yeah.
And
fuck it up.
I have a random story. It's not gonna be funny, but yeah, it's totally off topic.
It's okay.
Sorry. All right, so for some reason, Mel, my wife, we were driving home separately from the same place, and I pull up beside her at a red light. It's like nighttime, and this is like recently, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna like do something funny." As I pull up beside her, and she's like, doing the thing. I pissed myself.
She beat you to the punch. She beat you to the crooner.
It's not like I wasn't gonna do anything that funny either. But I mean, I think about that a lot. And it was only like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Anyways.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
that is the history.
yeah. See, totally off topic.
You married a comedian.
I'm gonna try something here, and I'm sorry if it falls on its face. That's too much.
Slow down, I'm gonna spurt.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm gonna. I realize you can't play music on YouTube, and this is gonna go to YouTube eventually. So, that said, moving right along, we of course have a special segment we like to call the body of the show, and it's basically just now we're gonna go into the body of the show.
Ho, 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 ho! Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
I love the little saxophone bit at the end. It's so sensual. And I'm going to get this right out of the way because I love it and I figured it out. Check this out.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
Every time it gets me. The MPAA rating for this movie is 42,659. It's, I don't know, our old co-host started it, and then Steve made that sarcastic sound for it. So
it was more like a jab at the fact that we do it every week. So I was like, wow, I can't believe we looked it up again.
Wow.
What is the MP for? What does that mean?
The motion picture board, like when they rate a movie, it gets a number.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so it's the 42nd thousandth film to actually be rated by the MPAA. The Motion Picture something association.
I assume it's like Association of America, right?
Motion Picture Association of America. Yes, you were right.
I don't know if I'm right. I'm just assuming 2 A's in a row. Usually is the Association of America.
The Motion Picture Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're right into it. The body of the episode.
Sexy sex.
I mean, yeah, the movie itself is pretty straightforward. It's about a young boy who leaves his home to follow his dream under the orders of Dio. And he finds a partner who is essentially swindling him at first, but then they become great friends, and they realize that the only way for them to pay their rent is to become musical sensations, and they realize quickly that they are not musical sensations, so they try and figure out a way to emulate their most favorite musicians, and Kyle realizes they all use the same guitar pick. So they go on a hunt for the guitar pick and realize that it's a guitar pick carved out of the tooth of Satan himself. So the movie then goes from a bustling artist trying to become famous to a road trip movie where they have a series of wacky adventures trying to get to the Rock and Roll History Museum to steal the pick of destiny and become famous. And the movie ends with them fighting the devil, which is great.
So I have a theory. Welcome to Jason's Theory Corner. It's not really a theory so much as the way where I place this in the chronology. Obviously, the history of Tenacious D happens, and that happened back in probably the 1400s. The movie takes place right before the album, obviously, but I think the Tenacious D like HBO episodes take place like during the credits. You know what I mean? Like right at the end of the movie.
Is there like a sound effect of like, you know, when somebody gets an answer incorrect on a game show? Can you hit that for me, please?
This one? I think you're doing something like this.
Yeah, that's right, folks. He's wrong.
Okay. Well, they can't all
according
be
to the
theories.
director.
Okay.
Of the movie.
Well, okay. During this theory corner, why don't you hit me with the directors?
The director, whose name is Liam
Lynch,
who also wrote the movie with the two of them, Kyle Gass and Jack Black. He places the HBO series about 1 year after the end battle with Satan in this movie.
Okay. Well, I'm not fully wrong. I know. I said something that is completely different than what you said. Fun fact about Liam Lynch is he had that United States of Whatever song in the late '90s. Remember that song? Because it's
That's that guy.
That's that guy. Yep.
The guy who's on the
love
street
that
corner
song.
wearing his leather.
So I was on the street corner with
In
my
my
leather. And I talked to Bebobs or whatever. And I was like, hey, man, what's up?
Zappo or Zaffo?
Oh my god, that's
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
good.
And then the officer shows up and he's like, I thought I told you not to. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Oh my god.
It's like a pre-meme
That's
before
amazing.
meme.
That movie came out while they were writing together. This, I think, in pre-production of this movie. Like Kyle Gass and Jack Black like heard his song on the radio and was like, "What the fuck?" Because he didn't even tell them about it. He's like, "Yeah, I didn't even have like a record deal or recording studio. I just sent my CD to a random radio station, and it went sort of like that era's version of viral." And like they didn't even realize that they knew he was a musician and that he had worked on music videos and stuff, but they didn't know that he was doing that. And it's pretty funny because if you watch it now, even the video itself seems like an early YouTube video or something,
like a sketch almost.
Like that one's like shoes. Oh my god, shoes. It's like something like it's kind of like that. Yeah, exactly.
When did it come out? I feel like I thought it was from
like
like
99.
1999. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a jam! Fun fact about funny old music, United States. The band, the Presidents of the United States of America, also a funny-ish band, right? The main guy from that band is now like a children's song guy. I don't know what you call that.
That happens
I believe
more
that.
often than you would think.
And his songs are so funny and clever. And like
They Might Be Giants
it's for
kind of went
children.
down that road too, and of course Weird Al exists in that space a little bit.
The Talking Heads, that guy sort of did that stuff as well. I think he did like a bunch of the writing for Pee Wee, even like after he had his like stint in the '80s of Uber fame, where he's like, "This is not my house. This is not my beautiful wife."
Same as it ever was.
Yeah. Another like the budget on this movie was not absolutely massive, but it was still pretty big considering what it was, right? Like it'd be like if they made a Flight of the Conchords movie or
weirdly enough they never did. That's a whole
I think
other thing.
I think that HBO was probably just like, yeah, maybe we should just give you a season 2 and not.
What always blew my mind about this is Jack Black had star power at this time. I think he was coming off.
That's why the movie got made.
Of Kong, yeah, he was like, I'm a huge star now. I want to make my passion project about my stoner band, and I'm telling you, at the time there were like no raunchy comedies happening. Like it was a weird void.
Well, I mean, it's also the reviews for this movie were very, very bad. The writing was kind of messy. I think they did like 6 or 7 drafts. Like one of them was about like Jack Black being obsessed with the city of Atlantis and just like getting sent to Miami, I think, to find Atlantis or something by Dio. So there are elements of it that exist still, but it's completely different, right? And he was at that point where he was making lots and lots of money per film. The movie production was delayed because he had to go shoot King Kong, which ended up having a really nightmarishly long shooting schedule. But his average salary at that time, or like his asking price, was $12 million a film. And this movie only had $20 million to play with. It's estimated 19 to 20. So he decided that he would take an $11 million pay cut, take $1 million, and then split that with Kyle Gass. So he basically was like, we'll split it 50-50 in terms of the million. Because I think they wanted to pay Kyle Gass like $20,000 or something, like something really outrageously low.
Because Kyle Gass is like a career sketch comic. Like he just shows up in the background of things all
well yeah they met at a thing I believe called let me see, I have it in my notes here, the Actors Gang, which was basically sort of like a sketch comedy theater, and he was just like the house musician. He would do skits with them, he would do skits with them but he was primarily there as the musician, and then he was also funny enough to get up on stage and had enough acting ability. But you can even tell in this movie, like, he's not really an actor. He's just kind of like a goofy, funny guy. Like, he's give him a couple lines and he can deliver them comedically, but I don't think he's going to have too much range in terms of, like, can he cry? Probably not.
Up against Jack Black, it's definitely noticeable that he's second banana in this movie. It's interesting that we talked about King Kong there, though, because Nacho Libre came out minutes before this movie came out. So he was, like, in the zeitgeist. But it's interesting. I'm seeing here that Pick of Destiny actually has a higher rating than Nacho Libre. I personally don't like Nacho Libre that much. I think it was a bad follow-up to Napoleon Dynamite. But it's widely regarded as a good movie. I see people talk about it online all the time. People quote it,
Yeah, like, they don't give me no evil powers.
So I'm looking at Jack Black's IMDb right now in that era. So, like, 2006, Nacho Libre, Pick a Destiny, The Holiday, which was a weird deviation, and he was great in that movie if you love the old rom-coms. Mm-hmm. Then Kung Fu Panda in 2008.
And then Kung Fu Panda, yeah.
Tropic Thunder in 2008, which... but, like, these big movies that, like, still are talked about in, like, culture today, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
like, my mom watches The Holiday every Christmas. Nacho Libre, Tenacious D, like, Pick a Destiny, like, are quoted a lot. Kung Fu Panda is, like, one of my favorite.
But then you have
cartoon movies.
You have Be Kind Rewind, which is a great movie, but, like, that we actually did that on this show, because it is one of those movies that's like, have you seen this? And he's so weird in it, and it's Kung Fu Panda is like a money movie, and King Kong's a money movie that probably enabled him to go, and The Holiday's a money movie that probably enabled him to be on The Naked Trucker and T-Bone's show, whatever the fuck that is.
Or this movie where he made $500,000 instead of $12 million. Yeah, I think it's also important that you guys take into consideration that this movie got assassinated in terms of reviews. There was no marketing budget to it. We were excited for it because we liked Tenacious D and we pay attention to Tenacious D's stuff, but you weren't seeing Tenacious D on the side of a bus. You weren't seeing it on a billboard, and you weren't seeing television commercials for it. So there are reasons that it didn't do as well as it should have, but I think that they were banking on the fact that we already have this built-in fan base for Tenacious D from the TV show and our album. And we do these shows, and so many people pack the theater to come see the show. Also, we're guaranteed to have a successful movie.
It's important to note that Jack Black was also extremely bitter about this movie not doing well, to the point
because he's proud of it and he thinks it's a good movie, which it is. Listen, it's not a good movie. It's a movie that I like and we like because we like Tenacious D, and that's basically what the review said. Is like, if you like Tenacious D, you will like this movie. But if you don't know who Tenacious D are, you're going to be like, what is this string of weird events told through the eyes of stoners?
Yeah, why is he slumming it?
Like, I like the movie, but, like, from, like, say, a fan's perspective, like, knowing all the TV show and knowing Tenacious D very well, it's like, okay, you go into it, you know who they are, and it kind of tells, like, the origin story and all this kind of stuff, but then it's kind of repetitive at the same time, where, like, it does a lot of the same stuff from the show. So even from a fan's perspective, maybe they're just like, give me something new. I want new D.
I agree with that. I think the Harold and Kumar movies might do this better than this movie does this shtick. Your thoughts?
What do you mean? Complete with horribly offensive content.
That's the difference, though. Those movies have gay panic jokes and racism and anti-LGBT.
What genre would you say this movie is in the sense of, like,
road trip?
The road trip, yeah. So what would fall under the road trip kind? So, like, Harold and Kumar, I guess.
Euro trip, road trip.
Jay and Silent Bob.
And
like all these kind of movies came out around the same time-ish, right?
Within 15 years, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can compare it to some of the Cheech and Chong movies, with a little bit of Spinal Tap in there, and the Blues Brothers even is a road trippy type movie. And it also has, like, lots and lots of cameos in it, similar to this movie. Road trip movie or rock and roll road trip comedy, I guess, would be the way you would describe it. But also you have to, when you look at things like this, you also should, when you see a movie that you're like, why did it do so poorly? There has to be reasons, and if you dig even a little bit under the surface, you can start to realize why. And the marketing budget is one, but it also went up against a bunch of heavy hitters the weekend it came out. It was a Thanksgiving weekend the weekend it came out, and it also had a bunch of movies already in theaters that were doing supremely well and only growing as the weeks went by. And one of them is Borat, a movie that people did not expect to do well, and that was playing while this movie came out. Casino Royale was also playing, and Happy Feet was playing, another musical for kids. So it's like, we can go watch this rock and roll bong movie, or we can go see Happy Feet.
I think when it comes to comedies too, like Borat was like a new thing.
Yeah,
that was phenomena that people did not.
Was Borat like already in the Ali G show?
Yep,
like
he was.
Okay,
he was.
So maybe it wasn't really a new thing, but
because it had this sort of weird international appeal, where people were like, "Who is this weirdo comedian from England?"
Yeah,
releasing a movie where he goes to America.
But also, even the Ali G show was kind of niche. They showed it on like Showcase, it was.
Yeah, but Borat had a massive marketing budget as well. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I remember it being everywhere. Like, him in the bikini was just like this weird sort of iconic image now, I guess. Like, when I say the Borat bikini, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can conjure it in your mind.
Similarly, when Scott Pilgrim came out, I remember that movie doing really poorly because of the other things that were in theaters. One of them was The Expendables, which similarly was like a new concept, not new in its actual execution, but getting together like 9 ex-80s stars to like do an action thing. And I remember it being like, do you guys want to go see Scott Pilgrim again? And then being like, fuck no. Why would I want to see that? Let's go see The Expendables blow shit up. That says a lot about why movies sort of get steamrolled like that. I think UHF encountered something similar. It was up against like Batman in '89. So this happens all the time.
Like movies. I think movies need a marketing budget because it's just like, it's almost like a oh shit, what's the word? I should know the word. It's a quick purchase. Like, it's not like, people sometimes plan like, I want to see that when they see the trailer, but then when it comes down to actually going to the movies, it's like, oh, I want to go to the movies this weekend. It's just want to go to the movies. And yeah, okay, what do you want to see? Well, it's just top of mind. It's like, well, that movie looks good. I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And so people use it as a heuristic to be like, well, this one must be good. Like, I'm seeing lots of ads for it.
Yeah.
That's
especially in that era where
the new marketing strategy is going to be the Barbenheimer thing, where two movies are going to seemingly completely different. The marketing strategy is going to be.
I mean, that's not a new
against each other.
That's not a new concept either, but I think that people memed it so hard that like it made both movies do well, and even like the marketing people were like, "What the fuck is happening here?"
Like, Oppenheimer was supposed to do well that weekend, and Barbie was supposed to be just a movie that existed, not be like the biggest movie ever.
That had nothing to do with like marketing ploy. That was like the internet memeing it, right? And being like, "Oh yeah, what you got to do is you got to have a black coffee and a cigarette, go see Oppenheimer, and then eat a bunch of fast food and put on your Hawaiian shirt in the afternoon and go watch Barbie." It
can be boiled right down to the man movie versus the girl movie.
Yeah.
Also,
it's because people were making fun of those podcasters who call themselves like alphas and stuff, were like saying like, if you go see the Barbie movie, you are straight up a beta, and there's nothing that can stop that now. If you have a pink shirt and you like Barbie, you're a beta.
I'll tell you.
I think it's like movies are different now in the sense that there's like coming out in the theaters is not any like big blockbusters, and if there is, there's never two at the same time. Like, it's very like, yeah, this is the movie coming out, and then they stagger it. So it's like, I don't know if there's just not as many big movies coming out. I guess I have no idea.
Well, also, like, we were talking about budget for a second there. We've talked about this in the episode before, and it's like, or not in the episode, but in the show, on the show before. It's, if you look at a movie's budget, generally you have to double that for advertising now, and so like the movie that's spent on the money that's spent on the movie itself doesn't usually reflect the amount that's also spent on marketing, because it's a separate budget. And that's why movie or companies like Disney, when they make a movie for $200 million and it makes $300 million, they're like, this is a failure. We didn't make back the money we spent on marketing.
Marvel movies
No,
and
so
Star Wars movies. That happens too.
the marketing aspect, you can get really creative, I think. And I think so Borat, I think, was creative. And there's probably more. I bet you his marketing budget was not that big, but it was like more guerrilla in the sense of like he showed up places and like,
but that's because it's the man who wrote, directed, and starred in the movie has a stake in the game, right? Where it's like something like Disney is like, yeah, we'll just throw Ant-Man on every fucking bus and bus stop and subway poster.
So like that's like a fail safe. It's like it's just plastered everywhere. It's just constant, so it's top of mind. But then if you're doing something with a smaller budget, you get more creative.
Yeah.
And which is more of a risk. So it's like if your little creative thing didn't work, no one's going to see your movie. So like Tenacious D, I don't think had any of that, but they could have had something like that. And maybe they're banking on the album being like more popular. Like imagine like one of the songs in the album when they released it before the movie, like hit #1 or something.
Yeah, I don't think any of the songs from the movie.
No, but like imagine it kind of took mainstream success, and then it's like, oh, and then there's a movie that goes along with it.
But when Tribute came out, that song was on the radio all the time, right? You'd hear it all the time.
Yeah. So like if the movie came out right after that, like then it would have been.
This movie had like The Metal and Pick of Destiny, both songs that aren't actually in the movie. Those were the singles, and The Metal was in a Guitar Hero game, and The Pick of Destiny got a music video that was just like one of those showing scenes from the movie music videos. So that's more like just an extended trailer.
Their guerrilla, in quotations, marketing was they just went on every late night show and performed and
they did the Metal on SNL as promotion.
They did it on every late night show. If you look at their, and they toured around to different cities and performed. They even did like random local television stations and stuff, like those like morning shows and things like that. They would do that. And it's because they realized pretty quickly, like, oh, the movie is not doing well. We have to go everywhere and try and get it into every household. Yeah.
Like a movie I'm thinking of that had a really good guerrilla marketing budget recently was that like horror movie Smile.
Yeah.
I don't know how well it did in the box office, but like that was and there's horror, like when I go to the movies now, there's horror movies, like all the posters are horror movies. All you see in like the previews are horror movies. I'm like, what are these movies? And you never hear about them again. But that Smile one was
Smile had a budget of
creepy.
Smile had a budget of $17 million and it made $217 million. So, yeah, they did well.
Their marketing budget.
Here comes the Smile verse.
Yeah.
But so the budget was what, 17 million? That was to make the movie and their marketing budget. Is that what it is?
I don't have a marketing budget here, so
right. Would that be in that budget?
Well, I think that's just to make the movie. So the rule of thumb that you're always supposed to take into consideration is to just double it. Yeah. But even just doubling
it,
I doubt
they doubled it. I doubt it. Probably not. Like they paid like random people to just
That's true. And a lot of horror movies rely on like viral marketing.
Here's $50, go smile like a creep.
And viral marketing is 100% free.
But also
TikTok can do a lot more for your brand.
Well, the makers of that movie, I believe, started as just a horror podcast, and they're like, we can make our own horror movie, I bet. And then they got people to fund it and figured out how to do it. And they weren't, I don't think they were even filmmakers. I think they were just podcasters who had like a fan base who were like, you guys have so many better ideas, just make your own horror movie. And they got a good team together and made apparently a good movie. I don't know, I haven't seen it, so, but it does look pretty creepy.
I've seen it. It is creepy.
I got scared.
But yeah, so going like back to like the guerrilla idea, like it is a risk. Like you're putting, usually people have to do it because there is no money. So it's like, it's doing something creative with the money we have or nothing. Because if they put it behind traditional advertising, put their stuff on a bus, they would get one bus ad for the same price. So it is risky, but then that's why you need to be like this. It's important for movies. So like we have to put all our eggs in this basket. It better go viral, better take off. So like Tenacious D, when you think about that movie, they probably couldn't have done something like that because Jack Black was too famous at the time.
And too busy, probably. But yeah, I mean, you're right. But they could have got Kyle to do stuff. But they also had so many people in the movie that could have. I don't know. I feel like maybe they were a little too confident in their existing fan base, because when you look at interviews with him and behind the scenes footage of the filming of the movie, you can tell that they are extremely confident that the movie is going to do well. Like they're so excited. Even they had to do reshoots for the movie. I found this to be an interesting fact, and it's like never happened again in the history of cinema. Is like a year later they had to do reshoots, and every single person that worked on the movie the first time returned. Like everyone, like crew members of like the craft variety grip and like editors and PAs, like everybody came back because they were confident the movie was going to do well, and they had a lot of fun making the movie, which is kind of a nice thing to
I actually noticed something about Jack Black. When he's really confident about a movie, he does kind of the same things. And I've noticed throughout time, this movie he was super confident. He'd always talk it up, and he did it again for the Goosebumps movie, which I think did okay. And then the Mario Brothers movie, which could have gone either way, honestly. It was fine. The movie's fine. It did okay. But when he likes something, he's got a certain way that he talks about it. And when this movie was coming out, I remember him being on shows, and not only is it close to him because he like helped write it, you know, and it's like his original IP. But he was sure. You can see it when he talks about it in interviews. He was sure this movie was going to be a hit. And I think, like you guys were talking about, he overestimated what people knew about Tenacious D, and he was kind of banking on that star power. Now, I ask you guys, if he had just waited maybe another 5 or 10 years, do you think this movie, or if a sequel came out now, do you think it would do better, the same, or do you think people would be like, ugh, this again, and just completely disregard it?
I think that if it came out now, depending on how they dealt with it, but I think Jack Black is even more bankable now than he was at that time.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
He's loved by everyone. Like there are children who were born in 2003 who love him because of Kung Fu Panda and know who he is because of that, and now they're becoming adults, and it's
my cousin,
they would probably be excited.
He commented in the chat, Reptar757, he loves Nacho Libre because I think he was the correct age when it came out.
And the Rugrats, apparently.
Was he my age? Was he my age when Nacho Libre came out? Because
he's like 28 now, so he was like.
I mean, I also like Nacho Libre as well. I think it's
just me.
funny.
I just don't care for that movie. I think that from that director, Napoleon Dynamite is the superior movie, and I just wanted more of that. And
I think The Gentleman Bronco is the superior movie overall.
I haven't seen Gentleman Bronco, so you're probably right. We should do a.
I actually prefer Nacho Libre over Napoleon Dynamite as well.
Me too.
Because I don't believe in God, I only believe in science.
That one line. There's just so many. I know when Napoleon Dynamite came out, that was one of those movies that like I think I saw later, and everyone was so amped about it. So I think I went in with like a little bit of like, how good is this movie? And it's like, I guess it's funny, but
it's just weird, right? It's like the weirdness of it all, yeah.
Before memes, there's that meme that's like, before memes, dudes just sat around and quoted Anchorman, and that was that and Borat were movies that we just sat around and quoted.
It was a terrible time in our lives.
Where there were no memes, yeah, it was awful.
Where everybody would just say movie quotes over
You had to wait for Ed the Sock to do a fromage to get new content on Much Music.
Ed the Sock grossed me out when I was younger.
Why? Because he was.
I went to the movies recently, and he was like, he was promoting something before the movie started. It's like Ed the Sock.
Oh, really?
Like I still is around.
I assumed that Ed the Sock was rotting in a landfill somewhere.
No, man, he just lives at the Chum Building, I assume.
Yeah, he's made up of chum from underneath the sewer grate out front.
Reptar says, I bet you I could throw this pigskin up over them mountains. See, that's the kind of thing that made me laugh.
From Nacho Libre? Or no, sorry, not Nacho Libre, Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah. Yes.
I see. I have only seen Napoleon Dynamite once, so I can't speak to it, unfortunately. But I've seen Nacho Libre like 100 times.
Does the chicken have large talons? What
is that? Is
The
that a quote
chicken.
from something? I don't know.
Does it have large talons? That was the quotable from Napoleon Dynamite that I fucking lived off of when I was in high school. The chicken.
The only quote I remember that the guy wants his like tater tots in his pocket. Like, give me some of your tots. So like, anytime I have see anyone that has tater tots, I always say, give me some of your tots.
Well, speaking of quotables, there's a couple in this movie, and surprisingly, they all come from Lee.
Yeah.
And I say them all the time to the point that I've forgotten that they came from this movie. So usually, if something shocks me, I will still say, "Geez, Louise, Papa Cheese." And anytime I order pizza and there are people over, and sometimes even when there aren't people over, I will open the box of pizza and then look around the room and say, "Here's your za."
Yeah. That's a thing
And
about
it's
this.
so dumb, and I forgot.
That's a
from this
thing that
movie.
I relearned about this movie watching it is the comedy comes from how earnestly they say things. These ridiculous things.
Here's your za.
Here's your result. And the one of the best the Lee episode of the HBO show, I like how they flip it where he loves them and then they love the fact they have one fan, so they like overdo
They become
it.
the stalkers.
They become the stalker to him. They don't go
But
down
he
that...
starts as a stalker, and then they stalk him to the point that he like gets a restraining order against them, I guess. Yeah, Lee. That's one of my favorite songs too. Lee. He cast a spell on me.
Reggie and Lee could be free, flying free, tenaciously, skinny dipping in a sea of Lee. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna have to cut you off there. We're gonna get sued.
Right.
By Lee.
Yeah, when he's the Sasquatch of the show, and he leaves at the end. He's like, just tell him a friend says hi. He comes back in. It's like, you better tell him it was Sasquatch.
When they cut to him just like rocking on the drums, like
He's
that,
terrible.
I think about that all the time. Yeah.
So I did want to talk about one thing, but I mean, we should probably go through the plot a little bit. But I mean, I did kind of sum it up pretty succinctly.
True.
Ass mark.
I have Asmark
I
too.
also have Asmark. I have Asmark too.
I
Yeah.
have Asmark too. Ever since the day I was born, I had this birthmark on my ass.
Yeah. Our band will be called Tanakh.
Tanakh. I don't know what. I looked it up in a dictionary and it wasn't in there.
Yeah, it's not in there. It's not in there.
It's not in.
Yeah. So it's destiny, and Lee points it out by going, "Guys, look!" And they put their butts together to form the words "Tenacious D." But I mean, there's the whole chunk, like the first act of the movie, it kind of goes on a little bit, almost too long, because this movie's not short. It's a little over an hour and a half.
Hour 35 with credits.
Yeah. It could have maybe stood to be a little shorter. I don't know. But it's a lot of stoner jokes piled on top of each other, which they're not as funny as they were to me when I was 21 or whatever, however old I was when this came out. And but there are some moments that are great still, when they first meet and Kyle's playing music and everybody thinks he's great, gives him money, and he's got this long mane of beautiful hair.
And just how he also plays like his identity or his character is like so confident in himself.
Yeah.
That's,
But he's actually not.
That's a good point. And you
Identity.
see that paradigm shift of like Kyle Gass is never the asshole on the original album. It's always JB. Reptar actually said, I listened to the original album before the stream, and a big standout is how much JB comes off as a genuine asshole in the sketches. And in this, he like got it.
I forgot about all the sketches.
He like got it from the drive-through sketch, and like when he quits the band, calls him a cock ass.
Yeah.
And then
Do you believe in God?
do you believe
Yeah, I was
in
gonna
God?
say,
The Dude I
believe.
Totally Miss You song could be like a sequel to, or happens right after like Kyle quit the band, like there's some parallels.
But
going
now
on
we're
here.
back together. Misunderstanding. Couldn't understand.
It doesn't matter.
Now we're back together again.
La 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 la.
Okay, anyway.
Okay.
That's also a good song.
The idea of like, I don't know. I guess I didn't really listen to much. I don't know. Maybe did Weird Al? I don't know. Like comedy music. Like did Weird Al have a lot of sketches on his
He had
albums?
no sketches.
No, his were just pure
parody, style parody, or original.
I watched a clip of a comedian recently like talking about old school rap, and he's like, we all remember the old school like huge bangers of like Notorious B.I.G. and all this kind of stuff. He talks about it. But he's like, but when you actually listen to those albums through, he's like, half of it is like sketches. I was like, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of that came from them just goofing around in the studio and like, you know, thinking it was funny, so they would leave it on the album, right? Like they would have a back and forth banter, and I'm sure some of them are written and stuff, right? But like if you look at any genre of music, sometimes what is it? Is it Roxanne? Where like
he sits on the piano and they leave
it. He like or he like trips or something crazy, and they just like it ended up making the song
he
better.
Sits on a piano and then laughs, and they left it in the cut of Roxanne.
Yeah. So now they have to fake that every single time they play live.
If
but
you
that's
go
different
back
from like a sketch. Like
no, I know. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying it was big on, which I didn't know. It was big on like rap albums in the 90s. So
if you go back and listen to the Chronic 2001, after every single song, it's obnoxious to like listen to on Spotify now because you just want to hear the songs, you know. But back in the day, that's what we had. We had cassette tapes with 9 songs and 9 sketches in between.
I think I only had 1 cassette tape because I was on the cusp of like CDs being a thing that was accessible age-wise.
I had hundreds
of tapes.
Mm-hmm.
My parents definitely had like a briefcase full of tapes, like one of those ones that are designed for tapes. It's like
my dad.
Do you know much about
a crazy collection? So I taped them all for myself. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Like, was Tenacious D like, because they were like a stand-up duo, right? Like, did they not perform together and like stand up?
That's what I always thought.
So they actually, like I said, they met at an actors troupe, sort of sketch comedy group called the Actors Gang, where Kyle was the musician for the comedy house, and then Tim Robbins, who's in this movie, wrote a play and cast both of them in the play, and then that's where they became friends, was through that play. And at first they didn't like each other. I don't know the exact reason. I think they sort of jovially say, like with sarcasm, that they were jealous of one another for different reasons. Like Jack was jealous of Kyle because he was such a good musician, and Kyle was jealous of Jack because he was such a rubber band of a human being, like just this crazy showman. And if they were able to combine their energies into one person, they'd probably be like the perfect star. And like you were saying earlier, like a lot of people refer to Kyle Gass as the straight man of the two of them, but the director, I can't remember if he was quoting somebody or if he said it himself, but he described Jack Black as like, Jack Black is basically an octopus, and imagine being standing next to an octopus. Anybody is the straight man when standing next to an octopus. And
there's an interesting thing I just noticed here that so Jack Black was in a lot of like bit parts before Tenacious D existed, but he played a character in Biodome named Tenacious D. Do you remember the hippie character in Biodome?
No, not a big Biodome head.
You haven't seen Biodome 1,000 times because you grew up in the 90s?
No.
At any rate, I bring this up because you can go back and see Jack Black as like a sketch comedian in like Mr. Show moments before he was in I think High Fidelity. I think High Fidelity is sort of his jump off point.
Not Cable Guy.
I mean, that's sort of what I mean by like bit part.
But that was sort of like this not revolving door, but this sort of like maelstrom of comedic talent in LA at the time, right? True. All these people know each other, and like Jack Black is in the Cable Guy.
He's
Cable
in
Guy is
the fucking Never Ending Story Part 3.
Yeah, get your fucking you haven't watched Never Ending Story Part 3 a million times when you grew up in the 90s?
Fair enough.
You sick fuck.
I remember that being extremely straight to VHS.
Yeah, I think so. He plays a bully, but he has very Jack Black mannerisms. So like, he doesn't do that, but he does stuff that's like almost bordering on it. So he chases the kid into the library, and the kid disappears. And then Jack Black finds the never-ending story of the book, and he opens it, and he's like, "Oh, once upon a time." He's like reading it, like, but he's wearing like a leather jacket, like he's a bully, right? Anyway, I was about to say. Jack Black is in The Cable Guy. The Cable Guy is written and directed by Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller is in this movie. Ben Stiller also not directed, but he was one of the driving forces of Tropic Thunder. And Jack Black is also in Tropic Thunder. They're just pals, you know. And this time in the '90s, the Mr. Show era was all of them either combining or supporting each other and just enabling everybody to level up their abilities as entertainers. You know?
Like Paul F. Tompkins is a Mr. Show guy, and I think in this movie, all the droogs, when he's in that, like, he gets stuck in Clockwork Orange for a moment after singing "I'm just a baby." When the droogs show up and start to harass him, I think those
Matt
are
Philp's
all...
favorite movie, Clockwork Orange.
I think those are all ex.
I'm just kidding. I just remember you were the one that, like, when I was, I think, in high school, you were like, "Have you seen Clockwork Orange? You gotta watch Clockwork Orange." And I was
like, the first like movie I saw that was kind of like a creepy, weird, like, not just like
terrifying,
either like an action or like a comedy / cartoon.
Like
it was actually like a real movie. Yeah, exactly. I was like, the movies could be like this. Like,
unfortunately
long,
for me,
ominous tones.
Unfortunately for me, that movie was Scarface, and then now you realize that, like, it's not. It's a good movie, but it's all the film bros are like latched onto it. But that was one of the first movies, and Taxi Driver, ironically.
You guys aren't film bros.
Not really. I try not to be as much as possible. I do love...
What would you consider yourself?
I am a video game man.
Yeah. I don't think that film bros consider themselves film bros.
No.
Okay.
They're oblivious to the term.
I think if you say, like, your favorite movies are Citizen Kane and Boondock Saints or something crazy like that, then you're a film bro.
If I identify with the wrong people in Fight Club, you might be a film bro.
And in your dorm room, you have the poster of Samuel L. Jackson and what's his face in Pulp Fiction, like pointing the guns.
Tyler Durden and fucking.
There's so many people, like, in university, when you walk in their room and they just have that big poster over their bed. It was either like those were like the, let's say, film bros that have that poster, and then you have like the sports bros that would be like, they would have like the Michael Jordan like arm stretch across like over top their bed. This is weird.
And nowadays it's going to be like, you know, someone will have a very reputable movie on their list of films that they love, and then they'll have like a Marvel movie.
Well, now it's all fucking
movie. You're like, okay.
If you walk into a college dorm and it's all the boring Chris Nolan movies, then that's the film bros of now.
Yeah.
Like Tenet in 1917 and probably Oppenheimer. I'll tell you, to go back to what we were talking about, I saw Barbie. I saw the runtime on Oppenheimer, and I was like, I cannot. No more 3-hour movies in theaters.
There's nothing wrong with liking these movies, but yeah, decorating your entire apartment with Christopher Nolan memorabilia is like, okay, man.
Yeah.
Take your wiener out of your own butt.
I hated Tenet, and people fucking supple at the nip.
I didn't hate Tenet, but I'm just like, yeah. I mean, the thing is I usually like his sort of genre bending sci-fi stuff, but I
love Tenet.
Well, it's one of those movies that I was like, I know what's going to happen already. Like, I kind of know what's going to happen.
The whole point.
I mean, I guess that is the whole point. But I'm like,
I watched Tenet, and then I had to watch a bunch of like YouTube explanations, and I watched it again, and it just made like it was like a totally different movie after watching it again. Like watching it twice was cool.
Maybe that's what I need to do.
They're gonna say I watched it once, and then I watched it once backwards.
The backwards cut of Tenet.
I think that movie also came out at a good time of like. Well, I guess it was COVID, but it was like, all movies like leading up to that seemed like Marvel movies
because
it's just like Marvel movie, and then it's like, then this is finally something new, different, like a new story with a big budget.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
So I mean, Nolan is gonna forever have that blank check status as a director, so he's only gonna be making crazy shit until the day he retires. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with
the D. What do you think the D stands for in D?
I mean, assume wiener.
I
I
assume
don't know. I was
Duo.
going to ask you.
Oh, Duo, yeah.
Fuck, that's
Probably.
definitely it. That's
not
100% it.
Tenacious Dick.
I thought it was a play on Initial D, the anime about driving cars and Tokyo drifting, but probably not.
Oh yeah, that anime that everyone knows.
You never heard of Initial D?
No, I
Really?
don't know.
I don't know.
I've
I
heard
thought
of
that was in the zeitgeist.
Pokemon.
I thought that was in the zeitgeist enough. Like if you knew what One Punch Man was, you would know what. Okay,
I know what One Punch Man is. He works out so hard that he's able to one punch anyone to death. Right?
It's true.
Isn't that the
Do you want to
concept?
hear? Reptar in the chat says Tenet is Memento with Batman budget.
Oh. I mean, that's a
stop
good
it.
point. But Memento is more interesting to me.
Memento is the better movie in my opinion.
But Memento is also a movie that once you watch it once, you're like, okay, I could maybe watch this one more time now, knowing what happens in the third time. You're like, all right, we get it, man. Fuck. Get your memories back already, would you?
That's like
Guy
Tenet. It's like,
Pearce.
I don't think I'll ever watch Tenet again. It's like,
Yeah.
I've seen it now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But Tenacious
I mean, I
D, I think you
Yeah,
can
let's get back to the D.
rewatch
the D,
over and
the D.
over, even though you know what's going to happen because you listen to the album and then you'll see it in theaters.
Tanakh, his father Meatloaf, rips all his posters down after he does a lewd performance in the kitchen, singing about how he was the black sheep of his family and he slayed a dragon by cutting its wiener off or something. And then his dad foolishly rips down every single poster in his room, slams the door, and forgets to remove the most important poster of them all, Dio.
Dio
And then
has rocked for a long, long time.
Did we mention that his dad was Meatloaf?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess so.
I said we get our second serving of meatloaf this month.
Steve, when you were doing your research, did you find out that there's some statistic about Meatloaf's appearance singing in a movie from some point till this movie, and it might be from Rocky Horror to this, but that can't be right.
He has not performed in a movie, like a movie that released in theaters from Rocky Horror to
it
this
was
movie.
from Rocky Horror to Tenacious D. Because we did Rocky Horror last week, so it's great that we followed.
But
it up.
he did act in other stuff in between. He just hadn't sang anything since.
Okay.
And there's a funny little behind the scenes video actually of Meatloaf, and clearly they ask him like, "Why has it been so long since you've sang in a movie?" And he like flips out, like he goes into like an Oscar moment acting, and he's yelling at the camera. And he's like, "Because every time they call me, they try and get me to sing, and I'm not a singer. I'm an actor."
But also, he
He was
released
just like-
those two amazing albums at the end of the '80s, "Bad Out of Hell" and "Bad Out of Hell Part 2." So.
No, yeah, that's the joke. That's the joke of him getting angry.
I don't understand comedy.
Is that he is a musician. So anyway,
Back to Dio. So, funny thing.
Dio. He prays to Dio.
So my wife is Italian,
Ugh.
and
Just joking.
and so like her brothers have little girls, nieces. So she has nieces, and so in Italian, like the language for aunt is Zia, like Z-I-A, and for uncle it's Zio, like Z-I-O. But how they say it kind of sounds like they're saying Dio, Zio. And every time they call me like Dio, I'm like, Dio has rocked for a long, long time.
Dio,
And then apparently-
can you hear
but
me?
Dio-
I'm lost and so alone.
Ride
Dio
the
means
tiger.
God.
You can see his straps, but you know it's clean.
But yeah,
That's-
Dio is God in Italian. Dio.
Whoa.
So if that's what Dio was going for.
I think he was. If you look at his face, you can tell he's this tiny Italian man.
I think he's a god.
Yeah.
I don't think he's calling himself the god. He's calling himself a god of rock.
Yes.
So young Jack Black, he prays to Dio for guidance, and Dio,
As one does.
in his great wisdom, answers. And he sends Jack on a quest to the city of fallen angels, where the ocean meets the sand.
You know that young
With
Jack
the
Black,
strong
the actor
lines.
who plays young Jack Black, is the same actor who plays young Jack Black in Nacho Libre.
Oh, is it?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
They got him twice.
Because he looked
these
exactly
movies-
like Jack Black.
Well, I mean,
guess
it's
so.
very possible that
Made at the same time too. With
and
both
yeah,
movies.
so but I think I remember seeing a behind the scenes thing years ago, I think from the DVD, where it's him and the kid talking, and Jack Black is like, this kid like imitates me like perfectly, and then like the kid's next to him, he's like, I imitate him perfectly, and he's like doing like a perfect Jack Black impression, but they don't really give him a lot to do, right, in the movie. And obviously they wanted to have Jack Black's voice singing because Jack Black is clearly a narcissist, but that's fine. It works for his career. And he also seems like a very nice person.
Over the pandemic, he released like a weekly vlog called Jablinski Games. Oh my god!
Yes, I remember.
So good.
He gets like a
He couldn't get the thing that we record games with, so every week he's like, we're going to do something, and then we'll figure out what's the thing called? It's just the thing that you record games to a stream with. Anyway, he went to like a literal pinball museum, I think.
Yeah, and he would wear a cape and have a sword. I remember.
Well, there's
Jack Black is very funny.
There's Jablinski Games, like the gaming thing that he did, but also he was doing those little sketches by his pool where he was dressing up like Marvel heroes for TikTok or whatever.
Yeah, painting himself entirely green.
Entirely green, like the Hulk.
But it was like his son would do it all. Like he was like loved it. I miss it. Jablinski Game.
He's too busy now making Jumanji 3.
But in some of those, they were filming Jumanji 2, and they went on set and they showed him like training for Jumanji 2.
Right. Those Jumanji movies are pretty good, actually. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but I like them.
Seen them. My wife keeps being like, "You should wait for me," and I'm like, "Okay," and then I could have already banged them out by now.
I avoided them for a while because I really liked the first one so much, and I was like, this is not going to do this for me. It's going to make me upset, so I'm not going to watch them. And then I eventually did, and I was like, these actually kind of rule.
I like the way they updated it. Yeah. They made it a video game, which is kind of the natural.
That's what I was thinking I was going to hate about it. People still play fucking board games, man. It's not like board games don't exist anymore. You sick, twisted bastards. I worked for a board game company for like 3 years, very recently. Anyway, so
all right, let's jump forward in this plot.
Yeah,
he's still a kid.
He's now an adult.
He then goes to the beach.
But it's also funny that it's just, all it takes is one bus ride for him to go from being a 12-year-old boy to a like 35-year-old.
Yeah, but if you notice, he goes to every Hollywood in the United States on his journey. So I imagine that
would not take you 20 years, but okay.
In my headcanon, though, I'm not going to do a Jason's Theory Corner for this, but in my headcanon, when Jack Black lands in Hollywood, he's like 18.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing is ridiculous. You don't need to have head.
This isn't a documentary?
No, it's a mockumentary. Now I'm going to make a new recording called My Head Cannon. It's just going to be the sound of cannons going off and you being like, oh, my head. Ow. My head hurts.
But we like to have a good time.
Yeah. He meets Kyle Gass. Kyle Gass saves him from the bad guys from Clockwork Orange, who I think this is the first like real chuckle that I got. Because the music is enthralling. You're not really laughing at it. You're liking it, right? So you're not really laughing at the goofiness of it. But they're poking him and they wake him up, and he's like, "Look, he looks like a little baby." And the guy's like, "He does look like a fucking baby." And they like hit him really hard. He goes, "No, like a baby." Like, yeah, okay. So they're just pretending to be British for some reason, which is pretty good, pretty funny. I can't remember. Did they just run off? Or do they get scared of something? Or
they take something from him, and then they run off, and then KG sees him.
His dignity.
Yeah, and then he pretends. No, they knock him out and run away. And then when he wakes up, it looks like KG has saved him, and then KG feels bad for him and takes him back to his apartment where they start to.
No, he does it to exploit him. He's like, "How can I repay you?" And he's like, "Well, we'll think of something." And so he just bring him back to be essentially like a maid. Yeah.
I have the overarching, like, I know how he truly felt eventually,
but at first it was
he's like, how can this guy's gonna clean my apartment and do my dishes
and get me weed. I won't have to perform at the beach. I'll get him to do it, and then he'll buy all the weed for me. Yeah, he was being a real Tenacious D, if you know what I mean.
Dick.
Yeah. But we already kind of went through the fact that they learned the secrets of rock. They do have a pretty good performance, though. They sing the history of Tenacious D, which is one of my favorite songs of theirs. It's one of the songs from the original show. I like it so much because it sort of tells a tale, right? Like a fanciful tale, and those are sort of my favorite songs of Tenacious D.
Like Wonder Boy?
Wonder Boy is one of my favorite Tenacious D songs for sure.
Well, my favorite part of this whole sequence is KG agrees to teach him the facets of rock, and it really comes down to cock push-ups, the rock slide,
power slide, not
power
rock slide.
Sorry, power slide.
A rock slide devastates villages, man.
Right. And playing in front of a rowdy audience, which they kind of go through. The power slide is based directly off of the Who. So Won't Get Fooled Again. We did Tommy on the show, which is you know, it's all the musicals are sort of in the same realm. Even the way that the sing-songy nature of Kickapoo and Beelzebub, where they're like singing, explaining what's happening, was very Rocky Horror and Tommy, which is something I noticed about that.
We definitely went for the rock musicals.
Yeah, we
didn't really venture too far away from heavy metal and guitars.
Yeah, we didn't do Cabaret and Chicago and Rent. We
did a genetic opera, Repo. It's all very much. This is why I agreed to this month, or at least this is why I agreed to the picks of this month, because I was like, yeah, I'll do it, but here's the caveat.
Steve doesn't like musicals that much. They make his inside sweaty.
They make me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I don't like when somebody dry humps a lamppost talking about their daily issues. Unless it's funny.
To Singing in the Rain?
Yeah, isn't he dry humping a lamppost in the rain? I guess it wouldn't be dry humping at that point.
No,
if it's raining.
Humping it.
No, listen, I have my reasons that I haven't really fully explained on the podcast, and maybe I will get into that one day when we do one of those musicals. But
did a musical pull your pants down in junior high?
Well, the thing about musicals that I find difficult is in a lot of musicals, when they're singing, they're explaining what's happening in the scene, and they're explaining exactly how they're feeling, and there's not a lot of subtext in terms of the narrative of the story. And I know that there is far more subtext to what they're speaking about in terms of society and the way that people will understand the song and what's happening in the world when it was written. But I don't care. It just makes me feel like these people are just singing about how they feel. Which is, some people like it, and that's totally fine. I would prefer somebody be dressed up in women's lingerie talking about how they're going to go make a Frankenstein monster upstairs, except a sexy one.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose that is a good version of that. I like the way that the rock opera does it, though. It is that sort of middle. They're rock songs a lot of the time. They're written like rock songs, and then
it's because they're trying to make them sound like songs that could be played on the radio, which is why you still hear things like the Time Warp on the radio and Tribute on the radio and stuff like that, right?
Like a Destiny. Well, you don't hear it on the radio, but it is very much a song,
Yeah.
Sex is a crucial component. Do a cock push-up. It hurts my cock. You never know when you'll need to fuck your way out of an issue.
And you know what? That's a setup and a payoff, because later on, he does it. He has to.
Yeah, I forgot about that part.
He summons a rock hard boner to save, or it doesn't save him. It just gets him out of a tight situation.
Because he has hit a button, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he uses his boner to turn off lasers. I've not seen this movie
recently.
Okay.
What I was wondering when I was watching it was did they have to save a rating by having it covered in underwear? Is there did they write it into the plot to just be a cock? Because this movie seems right on the edge of it could be a bit raunchier, or even a bit grosser, but it's kind of tame. Maybe that's where they went wrong, but it's still a rated R movie, right?
I think so, but maybe that would have pushed it over the top if it was a nude wiener. But also maybe Jack Black is it's funnier if it's in the underwear still, because how's it going to get out? How's it going to get out of the underwear? There's something more embarrassing about a boner that is still clothed than one that isn't, you know?
Yeah, one that isn't is too threatening.
It's too threatening. It's scary.
It's extremely quotable.
Yeah, we go through the training, and then he goes through the simulator, and then he realizes that Kyle has been lying to him the entire time about everything, because his mom calls him and tells him that 30 years of trying to become a famous musician is too much. And
doesn't she have a nickname for him?
Pumpkin, yeah. Hello, Pumpkin, it's your mother. But she calls him Pumpkin because he looks like a pumpkin, because even when he was a kid, he was bald. Because he rips his hair off by accident. It has this weird flashback where he's a little kid, and another good casting, because that kid does look a lot like Kyle Gass, and it's not just because of the hair. It's like even when he's wearing the hat, it still sort of looks like him quite a bit. But then he gets his hat knocked off by some bullies, and he just has the horseshoe hairline, even when he was however old he's supposed to be, like 10 or 11. And which is goofy, and it felt very sort of like Looney Tunes ish. Like it seems like they could have animated that whole part with those little Ren and Stimpy animations at the beginning. And then he decides he's going to leave, and Jack is mad at him, but then he reveals that he spent the rent money on a gift for Jack, which is a sweet guitar that has like every sort of religious symbol ever known to man. Included, and then it also says E = MC squared.
So that's where we sort of get the conceit of the rest of the movie. So the call is because the parents are cutting KG off. No more rent. So Jack Black is like, "What'd you spend the rent on?" He reveals the guitar, and then they're like, "Okay, we got to go play the ultimate gig and get the rent money." Not unlike School of Rock has a similar. Yeah. Has a similar conceit where he's got to go to school and make the money to pay the rent and then sing a song about it. And this is where we start this. If there's a moment of the movie that sort of becomes the Home Alone of it all, Matt, the Home Alone of it all is in the movie Home Alone, when they slap down the blueprints to get ready for all the bad guys to come in and rob the house. But Kevin McAllister's like, no, I'm going to put traps all over the house.
You don't have a soundbite or sound.
We do, but you know what? We're gonna play it. We're gonna play it. We're gonna play it, and I'll tell you why after we play it.
Isn't it literally one of those moments in this movie where he does slap down a map?
The Home Alone of it all.
The echo.
The reason why we don't play it is because I technically got a copyright message, but it doesn't affect anything, and also I challenged it, and I think they haven't responded, and if they don't respond, the challenge gets thrown out. So
wasn't it also only in Russia or something?
Yeah, it's only in Russia.
God.
They're like, what? Family's Home Alone.
The Home Alone of it all.
Yeah.
But do you
they probably own the rights to that orchestra music?
It's a little part from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Fucking ding 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 ding. Do you guys have a better idea of the Home Alone of it all? Did you think about this at all, Steve? Because I think
doesn't he slap down a map at one point of getting into the rock and roll?
Yeah, well, he's writing one up in the diner, and then Tim Robbins comes and pulls it away from him, and then he does slap it down technically. Yeah.
This is one of those movies that it's kind of hard to pin down, because there's so many just little groupings of stuff that's happening, right? So the ultimate conceit is that they need to get the pick.
Yeah.
So I would say as soon as they figure out what the pick is, because the movie is called The Pick of Destiny, I would say the moment that Ben Stiller explains it to them, and that little sort of fun illustrated sequence of the blacksmith story or whatever, little cartoon. As soon as that's completed and Ben Stiller is Satanus, that means Satan in Latin. Translated it myself. It took me 6 years. Why didn't you just hire a translator so he could read it too? Okay. He's he even kind of is designed to look like Dio as well, like a younger Dio. I would say that moment probably when they truly understand what the pick is the moment. But again, you could argue that it is the part where he's drawing the map the diner. You could say it's the moment that they pull the pick out of the guitar in the museum because they finally have the power. Yeah, it's hard to say in this movie.
Okay, I fully agree with that. Yeah, I would say either when they leave to just go become a band together, basically when the wig comes off, or when they're just going to get the pick. Right before that, they just go and try to do an open mic where we get to see Paul F. Tompkins, who is just called open mic host. I think he's even just called that in the HBO show as well. Mm-hmm. I just want to point out that Jack Black always just knocks the mic over, and he does it in every episode of the HBO show, and I always thought that gag was just so funny. And then there's a reason for it, because in his head, his voice is powerful enough, and we see that in his fantasy later when he's singing this
Do not
Master
need.
Exploder. Yeah, Master
the
Exploder.
microphone. Master Exploder. Yes.
Matt just said that twice.
Oh, sorry.
You were thinking so hard about what it was.
Because I was thinking of Explosivo still.
I said Explosivo first, but I said Explosivo.
Yeah, and then essentially they Paul F. Tompkins is like, you guys need some new material. And one of my favorite lines is like, Lee's like, you guys were so awesome tonight, and Jack Black says, yeah, we were awesome compared to bullshit, which is on the album. But that's when they have to like figure it out, basically. And they need to write an epic, so they draw a pentagram on this floor. And they have a writer's block moment. And this is where we see Jack Black like freak out at Kyle and be like, you piece of shit, you figured out, you gotta write the best song ever. It has to be like this, it has to be like that. And in the show, in the album, the first album, that's where Kyle quits the band. But in this one, he doesn't. He keeps trying to satiate Jack Black's ego. And it's just...
Well, yeah, I think it's Jack Black, before he is... before he reveals who Kyle really is, it's either that he is being a fake person in order to gain the respect of this other guy, or he's just weak and is intimidated by this other guy. And then now that he knows that they are both equal, he is treating Kyle like he is not equal to him, which is the sign of a narcissist.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny in the context of this movie, because he thinks that he's a genius, right? And like you said, like they start, he's like, no, that riff sucks. And then he's like, oh, and then they finally get into like a groove. And then he's like, wait, did you hit record? And it's like, you could have hit record, man. But then he blames Kyle completely for not hitting record, even though he's playing a guitar with two hands. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they pull out some guitar magazines, and that's when he's like, wait, do you see this in every cover? These people are holding this pick. So they go to Guitar Center, because that's where naturally they're going to ask a guitar player what this pick is. You already explained. They meet Ben Stiller's character. He tells them the story about how this guy flicked a pick into the audience, and a young Eddie Van Halen picked it up, basically became Van Halen, and then
it named Eddie.
We get like
Van Halen.
We get a sort of animated little moment that looks like tarot cards. There's a lot of animation in this movie that's like, it looks supposed to look like tarot cards, which I thought was like a neat little touch. It also
that was like part of like the DVD for the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When it's like when you picked something on a DVD, it's like, the decision has been made.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that, man. That was great.
They would like turn into like little fetuses, or they'd like,
it's like they
grow
cry.
into
It turns out that the Pick of Destiny is a piece of the tooth of Satan that was worked by a blacksmith into a guitar pick, and then it disappears from history until it reappears in the southern United States in like the early 1900s, and American blues was invented. And that's kind of a reference to like the devil went down to Georgia sort of mythos
Crossroads
of the crossroads and that. And I love the idea that you have to challenge Satan to a rock off. that's one of his like things that you do.
We
with
challenge you to a rock up. Yeah.
And that's when they go up to Lee and they're like, we need your shit. We have to go to the Rock and Roll History Museum. I don't know why they couldn't say it. Do you guys know why they can't say Hall of Fame in this? It's just called the Rock and Roll History Museum for some reason.
Probably copyright.
It's probably copywritten, right?
They probably would have had to have paid something to use it, and the budget was so small. It's also the reason they call it the guitar way to heaven, I would assume.
And this is when we get Master Exploder. JB falls asleep almost immediately. And in my opinion, Master Exploder is quite possibly one of the best Tenacious D songs overall.
That's one of my favorites for sure.
Well, that was going to be a question of mine during this podcast is, do you guys have a favorite song by Tenacious D, either in this movie or outside of this movie, or both? You know, you could pick one from the movie and then you could pick one outside the movie.
I think that Tenacious D have a lot of great songs and not a lot of bad songs until you get to the Rise of the Phoenix album and beyond. Rise of the Phoenix has more hit and miss than Pick of Destiny and Tenacious D, because the two first albums are kind of like, it all flows together, it all works. One is the soundtrack to a rock opera, one is like the seminal Tenacious D experience. And then when you get to the Rise of the Phoenix, you get this weird like sense of, especially with the song Rise of the Phoenix being about Tenacious D flopping and then coming back into the ashes, and then writing songs like Low Hanging Fruit, which is just like awful, or like Sexy and 30 or 40 or whatever the fuck.
I think this is just a showing of your maturity, Jason. You maturing as a human being.
It could be.
Like, you gotta remember that these movies came out when you were like a teenager
literally in high school,
early 20s, and then you're talking about something that came out when you were like cusping on your 30s, you know?
Yeah, but that thing that they made, that Apocalyptico or whatever, the animated thing, was bad and it wasn't good. Like regardless of
yeah. Yes.
I haven't watched it.
It's not even worth it. All the songs in it, there's like one or two like kind of good songs, but all the songs are like a minute long. They were trying to go for like viral, like meme.
Yeah, I think
stuff.
I think that was just for fun, you know, because when you think about the inception of Tenacious D to the HBO show to the release of their first album, it's 1986 to 2001.
Yeah,
that's how long it took them to release an album.
And now they mostly just do viral videos of that are covers.
Yeah, they had that video game one that came out not too long ago, which was pretty good.
But their cover of Wicked Game is actually pretty good. I do like that.
But I think that we also had a lot of time to sit with the first Tenacious D album and listen to it over and over and over again. And you eventually, the songs that you would skip to get to the songs that you liked, you would eventually get bored of the songs that you liked and listen to the ones that you had skipped so many times and start to love those ones as well. You know, I remember the first day I bought that album, I would skip to like the same 3 songs and listen to them over and over again. And then eventually I started giving the other ones a chance, like Dio. I was like, fuck this song, I like it. And then eventually that one became one of my most favorite songs of all the songs on the album, right? I didn't give Rise of the Phoenix that same opportunity because it was a different era where I didn't have to buy CDs anymore. And if I had to, you know, if I wanted to listen to something other than Tenacious D, I would have to change a CD while driving on the highway. And I didn't really like doing that. So I would just leave the CD in there and listen to it over and over again.
I will say,
I also had a car where the CD player was in the trunk of my car.
Okay.
So I had to get out of my car, open the trunk. That's how I had to do that. So it would just live in the same CD for a very long time. Anyway, I don't even have Rise of the Phoenix. I don't know all the songs. I know a couple of the songs because I didn't listen to it over and over again in the same way. So I can't say that they suck. I can just say that I didn't give it as much time as I did with the other 2 albums.
I did. It came out when I was working in kitchens, and it does have some great songs, like the Ballad of Hollywood Jack. Death Star is a weird one, like the City Hall song. Like, it's just a long, weird story.
But I liked City Hall. That song.
No, I love City Hall. City Hall is an amazing song. But but then it has a song called Low Hanging Fruit, and it has another song called Senorita, and they're just gross. They're weird and they're bad. And
There's probably somebody else out there who loves those songs.
Could be.
They tour a lot still.
They do.
Yeah.
Like they're always on tour. I've never seen them live.
They never fucking come to Toronto.
Their backing band is if you've ever listened to any of the Kyle Gass band.
Wait, he didn't name his band the Kyle Gass Project? Why the fuck didn't he name his band that?
The Kyle Gass band is great if you listen to it. So he doesn't sing in any of the songs. He plays the flute.
Oh right.
Oh yeah.
I do know this.
Yeah.
There's some cool live performances online of it. Yeah, but his backing band is really good. Like obviously probably like pro musicians or whatever that they have like
isn't his backing band the backing band from that tour with them now, like that came from the Pick of Destiny, because they have like a bass player or something that you always see with them now, because they need a full band to play this album.
Yeah. Should we look this up?
Look it up. So
I don't know the information.
Speaking of cameos, as we mentioned earlier, Amy Adams is in the Master Exploder segment. Also, later on, Colin Hanks, who is in Orange County with Jack Black.
Jason Segel's also in that same scene.
Oh, Jason Segel's in that? I missed him.
Yeah, there's so many fucking people in this movie, man. If you watch it enough times, you'll see them all. But yeah, some of them are right in your face, and others are like even Amy Adams. But I don't think she had been in anything at this point, so she was just kind of an extra.
On The Office one time.
Yeah,
the hot girl episode.
But when the brains blow out of that dummy's head, they land so perfectly on her head that they're like, we got to give her more screen time here, because it landed perfectly right on her. And if you watch the behind the scenes, she like looks mortified by the fact that it landed on her, and then she's like, and she gets back into like, yes. Like, so they're like, yeah, okay, go film that.
Well, like coming up here, like right when we kind of move past that, they get to a diner where they meet Tim Robbins, and Amy Poehler is in it. And she was even just on SNL at this time. And she's like a mega star now. Like she's just like universally known, loved, you know.
She was also in the same circles as all those those comedians. So I think
it's the Upright Citizens Brigade,
friends.
UCBs, I think, where she came from, which is like an LA ex-Chicago troupe that's still going.
A lot of them went to the same schools as well. But yeah, like Fred Armisen just pops in there for a minute to be like, or whatever the fuck he said.
I like when Kyle
never fired my gun before. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Oh yeah, that dude. And Fred Armisen, the guy that's in like a million things. I like when they sit down and Kyle Gass is like, I want the fried chicken and the steak and the chicken fried steak. And Jack Black is like writing fiercely. It's like, I want a small glass of carrot juice.
Yeah.
That's a funny.
We don't have that. Then I will have nothing.
Nothing.
Doesn't order anything else.
And that's a setup and payoff, because if he had eaten, then he wouldn't have met Papa Ginu, aka Sasquatch.
Oh yeah, he needed to eat all the mushrooms.
Remember, he was like, "Wow, I was so hungry, and I'm glad I found all these mushrooms."
Mm-hmm.
But this is when we get a sort of in the hero's journey, when everybody sort of breaks away from the plot because they are distrustful of one another.
Because they need it to happen for the story.
They needed to
be interesting.
For it to be interesting. And basically, Kyle Gass wants to get laid and see some frat girls and goes to try to party with them. And Jack Black is like, he's on the mission. That's probably another place where I matured. I remember watching this movie and being like, Jack Black, man, just go party at the place. Who cares? And now I was like, I get it. I know when you want to do a mission.
I've always been like that my whole life. If you're on the mission, you're on the mission. Keep your fucking dick in your pants and complete the mission first.
You didn't know me when I was 22, buddy.
No. But I mean, I assume that you were not thinking about the mission.
No. Matt,
the mission is important.
Did you find the thing you looked up?
What was I looking up?
I can't remember now. I fucking.
I was looking up who's in the band. Yeah. Yeah, it's no one notable. I was trying to look up their backgrounds and stuff, but yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
But I know, like, when they've toured, like one of their opening acts was a band that was made up of members of their live band called Winchester.
Winchester,
which is,
I recognize that band name, and that's like who the Pick of Destiny band are, right?
I think so, yeah. Or I don't know, I have no idea. But like the Kyle Gass band is made up of 2 members of Winchester, and then Winchester is like 2 guys. But they recently toured with
2 guys named Winchester.
I don't know.
Jeez, that's a supernatural occurrence. Am I right?
But then one of those guys from that band is in Tenacious D, or plays live.
I think it's that bass player that I was talking about.
No, it's their guitar player.
Or the guitar player. Okay.
But yeah. Anyways, but they've been touring with this other guy. I don't know if it's just in my algorithms on social media, but this guy called Steel Beans. Have you ever heard of Steel Beans? Look it up. He's basically he's a good. I think he does improv like music, but he's like plays drums, guitar, and sings all at the same time, and it's really good. And so like when they've last been on tour, like playing these big stadiums, like this guy's been touring with them.
I wrote that down because that's right up my alley. I love that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right up my booty.
I thought that if they didn't get Tim Robbins, obviously now we know because you were saying Tim Robbins and Jack Black go back, go Jack back. I think Mickey Rourke could have played this character effectively.
Yeah.
You mean just recreate his character from Iron Man 2?
Yes. Even though Tim Robbins is going between like a weird like Eastern European, Russian, and also French accent, like
it's weird. He's just like he's a indescript phantom man.
He's like he's like the soothsayer from fucking
He does
Othello.
maybe have the funniest moment in the entire movie, though, I would say, out of every character.
Which one?
Where they run away because he's like, "Get over here! I'm going to stab you." And
oh yeah.
No. And then like he's like throws his knife at them, and then the police show up, and they're like, "Freeze!" And he turns to the police and he goes, "Catch me if you can." And then he like tries to like slowly move her head away, and the police just walk up to him slowly and grab them. That's, I think, the funniest moment for me. Catch me if you can.
Yeah, he had a good cameo.
Yeah, he interacts with only Jack Black for most of it too. He goes into the bathroom while Jack Black's taking a dump.
Yeah, like to the point that he could have been a ghost almost. Like,
yeah,
people, if no one else saw him, they could have played him off as a ghost. But like, he does have like, he's so weird, right? Like Tim Robbins is just Robinson. Wait, no, Tim Robbins. Tim Robinson is a different person.
Tim Robinson is Tim.
If he was in
from
this movie,
Ohio,
it would just be a cash grab.
The cash grab.
But he's a very comedic actor as well, right? Like he's a good actor. Obviously, we've all seen him in endless amounts of great performances. But when he first like sits down and he just kind of like
he's trying to he's trying to get his feet over the thing, and he fucking it's like hello.
Yeah. And then he puts his crutch like on the table, and then he tries to catch a fly.
Yeah,
he's just like yeah.
So he reveals through all this. He kind of just reveals that he also tried to go and get the Pick of Destiny, and gives Jack Black the drawing of the air ducts, which is just 2 pictures of air ducts with one with an arrow. It's like fuck. Just
that's what the guy was talking to shit.
Yeah.
Electric eye. Infiltrate.
Another moment from the album is where it's like tits or destiny, and KG's like tits. That happens during this. They go their separate ways. It's called The Divide. One of the tarot cards comes up again. I love the part in this that comes up after this where KG's at the frat party and he's like just like partying and everybody loves him, and the girl's like he's a rock star, he's gonna play some music for us, and he gets up on a stage like on the guitar and a guitar comes in from stage right and he grabs it and he's only playing his half of the song and he makes it through like 5 seconds of a song before they just turn the music back on.
Before the guy who sings Chocolate Rain turns to DJ equipment back on.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that he looked like him? I did. I was like, that guy looks like the Chocolate Rain guy, but like a taller, thicker version of him.
Oh, I didn't I didn't notice that.
What's that guy's name again?
Tezonde?
Tezonde, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember the Chocolate Rain.
He looked
guy's
like a
fucking
real
name.
hot version of Tezonde. He's wearing the same glasses. He has the same hair. They look similar.
Sexual
And the song he
Chocolate
plays
Rain.
during that song, like the song he plays at the point, is the history of Tenacious D. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just comes into the harmonies. That does it playing.
Yeah. I
Did not die in vain. No.
Yeah, it's pathetic. as
Lack
people
of
would say.
foresight, I think, is the term there, because Tenacious D kind of come as a package. But then we get the Sasquatch party. John C. Reilly plays Sam Squanch, and this, I like the little like clicking back.
I actually
to
had no
reality.
idea that was John C. Reilly, and I didn't believe you. And then I looked it up, and I was like, "Holy shit! How did I not know that?"
Oh, really? Because the weird thing about that is I didn't know that for years either.
Well, I didn't know it until just now, and
I knew it.
I mean, now that I know it. Like when you said it, I was like, "What?" And then I was like, "I guess that's him." But why didn't I know this before? So I looked it up, and you were right. And now I'm like, I have to go back and watch it again because there's so many lines that are very John C. Reilly-ish.
We're going on an adventure.
Yeah.
When he talks about the fucking,
Just shake your booty, you don't fall off.
when he talks about the strawberry, we're gonna go in the strawberry river, and it
Let's
just
go
cuts
for a dip in the strawberry river.
He's just in the ocean.
Yeah. He's like on like a really heavily rapided river, just like
Yeah. Oh man, I wish mushrooms
good
were like
rocket.
that. Yeah, I guess if you eat like 10 pounds of mushrooms, you might have a trip like that. But
yeah. I think I had tried mushrooms before seeing this movie, and pretty like close to it. And I don't really do psychedelic drugs very often because they're scary to me. Like just the concept of them are kind of freak me out. Nothing anywhere near seeing glowing butterflies and mushrooms and a Sasquatch who I just want to be my dad or whatever.
the glowing,
Wish Sasquatch was my dad.
the glowing is a little bit accurate, but everything else is completely fucking
for me.
bangus. Well, to eat mushrooms have like a. It depends on the mushroom. They have like a thing where, depending on the mushroom you do, they have different effects. I learned that from going to a mushroom dispensary.
Mushroom Man.
Right here in Toronto.
Do you know the Mushroom Man? The Mushroom Man?
The Mushroom Man?
I
Yeah,
think Jason Segel was in it as one of the frat boys. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I just said that.
that's what Steve was saying. Because I picked out
Yeah.
Colin Hanks is the guy that like bullies KG as he's leaving, but I didn't pick out Jason Segel at all.
But I mean, like, if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know that like Dave Grohl was Satan, and you wouldn't know that John C. Reilly was Sasquatch until just now.
Yeah.
But most of the cameos are not disguised, but you wouldn't really call Amy Adams a cameo because it was just her being in a movie before she was famous. But
That's
like,
that's a good point. Like that's what I was thinking about the Amy Adams thing. Like Amy Poehler is a cameo and Fred Armisen, because they were both on SNL at this time. And that's what happens
they're
when you're on
playing a
SNL. You
role
get to do
that-
cameo roles in comedies.
yeah, and like those characters are meant to be funny because you have the reason for a cameo is that you as the audience member is like, hey, it's a person I recognize and know, and they're only in the movie for 2 seconds. You're not going to see the movie for them, but you're excited to see them for a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tim Robbins, like her line, like I saw this not a blooper reel, but like a sequence of takes where Jack Black keeps saying, "What happened to your eye?" And she gives like 15 different reasons why her eye is fucked up. And one of them is just, fuck you, man. Like, she just like doesn't give a fuck. One is like, I fell down a flight of stairs. But I mean, obviously the funniest one is that I burnt it on a curling iron.
Yeah, I burnt it on a curling iron.
It's so very clearly not a burn. Yeah, but I would say, yeah, Fred Armisen as well, or it's just like he's just he's telling like the weirdest story about how he beat up two guys and at the same time and made them poke each other's eyes out.
Yeah. And then I grabbed his fingers and I made him poke the other
And then I
guy's
grabbed
eyes.
both of their fingers and I made them poke each other in the eyes, and I made them poke their eyes out, and there was blood everywhere. It was crazy. And the other guy's like, "Whoa, that is crazy."
This is
But
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that other security guard who is like another actor that you recognize, but I don't really know.
He's from
He
like
seems like a guy who's like
sitcoms and
cop dramas and stuff, right?
yeah, he's been in.
Oh, he's like the
things.
psycho in Seinfeld, like the army guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, he has my second favorite line in the movie, which is when he hears the air duct fall when they finally get inside the museum, and he takes his radio out and he's like, "Just heard a sound. I am tripping out. Are you high right now?" And then he realizes he hasn't held the button down. He's like, "I'm going to check out a noise I just heard." He just like says everything again, but not stupid. And then he does the same bit again later, except he says he's gonna go fucking shoot them and say that it was self-defense.
I've never shot my gun before. That was crazy. Yeah, we basically we get to hear Break In City, which is a great song, just about basically Jack Black breaking into this place. That's where that's what the guy was talking a shit.
Electric eye, infiltrate, stop the gate.
Yeah, you covered the Fred Armisen. When he falls into the thing, he's like, "I wish KG was here," and then KG is just there miraculously. Because if you go back a minute, he was looking into like his empty beer and remembering all these scenes that like we didn't see.
That never happened.
Just like new scenes, but one is just like, what was the last one that just goes on for so long? Fuck, so funny.
There's the one where he chokes.
Yeah, like he just chokes and he just saves him from choking, and it goes on for like a minute.
Yeah,
it's just so dumb. Yeah.
I mean, it's fine, right? Like at this point, you want them to get into the museum, right? So like you're kind of glad that like we don't have to have a whole other bit where Kyle has to get in, and he's just there, and it's like okay, and then you get their Looney Tunes sneaking around part, which is also. Even the music at that point feels very cartoonish, where Jack Black is doing like actually like inhuman movements, where you're like, how is Jack Black, a little short, stout man, able to do all these things? And then Kyle Gass is acting like a real human of his stature. It's like, I can't do any of this. So he's just like spinning around and like following him and like waddling around, and it's funny. But I did want to say one thing about the Sasquatch part before. It's really stupid, but it like for some reason, every time I see that meme of the kid doing a crazy skateboard trick inside of one of the the skateboard pool things or whatever, and he like goes over another kid, and the camera goes, and there's the other kid who goes, "That with legitness." Yeah, that kid reminds me of Jack Black when he's a Sasquatch in this movie, and I've always thought it ever since the first time I saw that kid.
The thing that always
legitness.
That's that moment when he's on Sasquatch's back and they're flying. The way that Jack Black is singing like this reminds me of like rock operas, and I thought it was a really good, like, it's such a weird way to like sing all your lyrics. That's the thing that stuck with me about that whole sequence. Also the strawberry.
I'm not saying that like the movie reminds me of the kid. I'm saying that every time I see that kid, it reminds me of Jack Black riding on the back of Sasquatch as a smaller baby Sasquatch.
For sure. That whole sequence is weird.
It's good, and the song is also good. I like that Sasquatch song quite a bit because it again, it's like on par with like the history of Tenacious D and Wonder Boy and the ones where they're telling a weird fantasy tale, and it's just like fun rhyming.
With Leonard Nimoy kicking out the jams.
Yeah. You ruined it. That was my song that I was gonna say is my favorite Tenacious D song ever made. There were some scientists trying to figure out the Sasquatch riddle. It's the best one.
So then we get the laser scene where they go up the guitar way to heaven, and there's lasers, and Jack Black's like, "Careful, Cage, don't go through those lasers, they'll chop you up." I'll
cut you in pieces.
Cut you into pieces. And he does like a little, there's a lot of songs in this movie that never made it to like a recording. I wish they would.
It's weird that one didn't, right? Because it seems like it's long enough to be on the album, but it never, and it's not really a song. He's just saying the
Laser video
he's
game.
He's just saying the names of video games from the 80s. He's like Tetris, Frogger.
I hope that we
Gilbert.
get like
Centipede.
20th anniversary of this movie. Has that already come?
Well, apparently there was a version of the movie that came out that came with a a CD that was even more maniacal music or something like that, and it was like a bunch of the score and songs like that, like Laser.
Because there's a version
Tetris.
at the very beginning of the movie. The version of Kickapoo is in the movie is the better version because it has the orchestrated part. Like that shit I love so much. Like an orchestrated version of a rock song.
A score, yeah. There's nothing more disappointing when you buy an album for a movie and it's just like the songs that they paid for to be in a movie. You know, you're like, wait a minute, I want the score, not this song by Kanye West.
Not just All of the Lights by Kanye West 14 times.
Sorry, Matt, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just laughing at that.
Yeah.
We're almost there. So
we're almost at the battle.
So he does the cock thing where he presses the button.
Yeah, he has to use his cock push-up powers to. I mean, the best part of that is the.
He uses all the powers. Doesn't he slide too?
Well, that's after, but yeah, he has to because he's trapped by the lasers and he can't move, and he's like, can't move, lasers, surrounded by lasers, and then. Cage tells him to use his dick, and
he says, "Use the full power of your mind." And then he's like, "I'll use my dick."
He says, "Use the cock." He doesn't say, "Use the full power of your mind." He says, "Use the cock. Use the cock." And the music is swelling and getting like super intense, and they're both sweating. And then like there's these musical stings happening, and then he's wearing like a button fly on his pants, and the buttons start like exploding off of his pants as the music is like accentuating it. And then it's like this super childish looking, like it's like a dick coming, it's like a bird dick or something, or like a turtle dick. It's like coming out of his body. It's not even a real it's not accurate, it's very mechanical and funny looking. And then it's so hard that it like it's like a little punch. And then he collapses afterwards because he's exerted himself so hard using the cock punch. And then they get the pick. They get the pick.
Climb up, get the pick.
They have to struggle.
But they immediately botch it because they fall backwards into like a bunch of amps, guitar amps, and they kind of fall over like dominoes. And then they're trying to escape, and they fall onto one, and it goes down like a sled, I guess is the best way. And now we have the two security guards come in.
I mean, maybe that should be the Home Alone of it all. Am I right?
Yeah, like literally. I was about to
riding a sled down a staircase. Yeah.
And they come in and they're firing shots off wildly, and they realize they have to, like you said, Matt, do the power slide.
Did you almost call it a rock slide?
No, I keep wanting to say deep knee rock squats, like 4 or 5 in a row.
In a row.
They slide out, they make it out, they don't get their leg trapped in the door like Tim Robbins' character didn't even have a name. He was just Tim Robbins.
Yeah, his name was
did it say it in the credits?
Mysterious Stranger. His name is The Stranger, yeah.
Just The Stranger? Okay.
Yeah.
They escape.
Catch me if you can.
Catch me if you can. We get that part that you already talked about. They get out of there, they get in the car, they drive back, and it cuts to them 50 miles away from Los Angeles, right?
Well, there's a pretty mean car chase. So, Jason, unfortunately, by your standard of movie rules, this is not a movie. This is not a film.
Well, there's no explosion. Well, is there an explosion? Anyway,
there's lots of explosions during the Satan fight.
It's a movie, not a film.
Yeah.
I qualify it, Matt. If you don't know, I qualify a movie having an explosion and a chase. A film has neither of those things. It's up to debate whether or not if there's one explosion or.
It's not up to debate. It's a rule that only exists for Jason and no one else on planet Earth.
It's a funny thing that I like.
and other film bros or whatever you call them. Yeah. That's totally Film broism.
Yeah. There is a funny thing that when I was watching the interview with the director, he was
Car
saying
Chase City. Sorry,
we
you're right.
we wanted to make a movie that when you first start it, and even like most of the way through it, you will think that this movie is the movie that is least likely to have a car chase in it, and then a car chase just happens out of nowhere, and you're like,
And
what
a whole song,
the hell?
a whole rock opera song
Yeah,
about
Car Chase City.
Car Chase City.
It's the name of that game. Yeah.
And thought it was, but it's never the same. Let's rock, let's roll, Car Chase City Patrol. So there was a little setup and payoff that happened earlier that causes them. So they get through the car chase. It's great. It's actually a really good car chase. It looks like they're driving through all kinds of different. Like it looks like New York at one point. It's crazy.
It's like a Grand Theft Auto
Yeah.
style, and like even the name of the song "Car Chase City" sounds like what they could have called Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
You know,
You know the classic Car Chase City franchise.
well, isn't
Chase
that the
City
video
5
game?
was pretty good.
Isn't that the video game that Kyle is playing?
That like super
called-
shitty looking.
Well, because like he says, like, come on, we'll get up and we'll put on the TV and we can play some Car Chase City. Like I think he like literally calls it Car Chase City earlier in the movie.
That's awesome. That's a good little tidbit you found there. But they make it away, and as they're driving away, there was a payoff that happens here that was set up earlier. When Kyle's driving away with the frat girls, Jack Black picks a rock up and whips it at the car, and it breaks out the taillight. Oh wait, no, this is what causes the chase. So
yeah, that's why he gets pulled over.
He gets pulled over, and he peels off like, "Oh, we got to get out of here."
I mean, that is set up payoff, but like, you didn't really need to set that. Like, the car is so shit already, and they're so incapable as human beings that I would have believed that the tail light was already out.
Yeah, but this movie has a lot of little like setup payoffs that are just for fun, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
for sure.
He
I'm just saying you didn't need it. It's not like I was like, oh
during
my god, I
this-
forgot about the brake light.
But during this, there's a funny gag where Lee sees them on the news, like the O.J. Simpson fucking chase.
What do you guys do?
Like, what are you guys up to?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, we're watching a crazy movie.
At the drive-in.
It's crazy. There's a car chase. Ah!
It's like,
Explosions, and he's watching it like lines up perfectly with what he's watching on the news, which I
Yeah.
thought was a really funny, like, nice touch. We're watching this bitchin' cop movie, Cop Chase 3. Have you seen it? Asked him if he saw it. So the car goes off a ramp, does a crazy flip. They clearly only had the budget to do this maybe twice total. It's a Cutlass Supreme. It falls. It explodes. Bursts into flames. Right, it's a car chase into an explosion. You know what I'm realizing now, Steve?
what?
My theory might be from this movie. My theory might have been fully derived from this particular film. That is a movie.
Which theory? The explosion?
The car chase into an explosion might be literally from this.
Jeez, what a movie to base your entire opinion on
The impact.
film about.
They don't call me a movie bro for nothing. Anyway, they do the funny thing that happens in a lot of like, there's the car explodes and the cops are like, call an ambulance, and then it just pans over to a manhole cover closing.
Yeah, they just do the cartoonish stuff that like things that you've seen, you know. And I do not think that when they went about to make this movie, they were like trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to like groundbreaking storytelling. They're like, let's just make a fun movie with Tenacious D having to get in and out of sticky situations, and become devil fighters. Which they do very soon after this moment.
I wish there was more in the sewer. They could have, like, if this movie had a longer runtime or they cut some other stuff, there could have been a fun thing where they're in the sewers and battle some sort of sewer demon. But
A big rat from the Princess Bride.
yeah. But instead what happens is they manage to climb out of the sewer right in front of the comedy club,
Which is also funny. Like that is funny.
exactly.
That they somehow navigated the entirety of the sewer and
the
got
entire Los Angeles
right where they
sewer
needed to
system.
go. Yeah. And you know that there's probably like a whole world under Los Angeles of like people that just live down there.
Right, exactly.
Have you been to LA at either of you? It's
I have not.
wild.
I've been in New York though. That's wild.
I was in San Francisco and like a couple of years ago, and just going from like one neighborhood to the next, the dynamic just completely changes. I mean, it's sort of like that here in Toronto as well, but there it's on a much larger scale where you'll like be walking through this very nice area, and then all of a sudden you're in a park and there's just 2,000 people just openly doing needle drugs in front of each other. And I'm like, well, it's the middle of the day here. Jesus, what the hell's going on? Why is no one stopping this? And it's because they can't stop it because there's too many people doing it in the same spot.
Well, opioids are a very addictive.
I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying that like why are these people here. I'm saying like how is this reality? Like this is a reality that I've never seen before. Just like thousands of people doing drugs at the same time. Over here, we've got places for you to go to do that shit.
They come up out of the sewer. Paul F. Tompkins is like, "Come on in and play your songs. You're a little late." And
it's so sus, though. He's being so nice to them, which he never has before.
And also, they have a Lord of the Rings sort of My Precious moment where they fight over the pick, and then it breaks in half. And he's like, "You scamps, go inside and play your set." And he picks it up, and he becomes Satan basically, and they come back out to be like, well,
it is a good moment though, because it's going to happen.
We could just each use part of the pick. There's got to be some juice left, and
there's a little juice left in there, yeah.
And as he says that's when we get the Beelzebub.
I am complete. And we also forgot to, when we were talking about Ben Stiller going through the tale, he says something in Latin like "est duante a tua." I can't remember exactly how it went, but then it's like, what does it mean? And he's like, "From whence you came, you shall remain until you are complete again."
No.
And they're both like, "Oh shit!" It's like it's weird that it rhymes in English, but not in the original Latin.
But they essentially, he says they realize that they challenge to a rock off. Jack Black puts up KG's butt as the prize if they lose, and if the D win, they they get the pick of destiny. Essentially, doesn't go down like that.
No, he just has to go back to hell, and and he also has to pay their rent.
Yeah, they just need the rent paid.
Yeah. He doesn't. They don't even say like forever. They're just like just this month only. It's a very reasonable deal.
The thing that I liked about this sequence is when the devil's first walking towards them, the booms of his steps and like the screen shake, just for some reason this time around just really captivated me because it showed like his size comparatively.
I think that's also a testament to the director, because he's only ever directed one movie, which is this movie. But he's directed so many music videos where he's got to be able to capture what music does visually, and like that translates really well to him, like those footsteps and like the camera, like that he knows how to do it, and it works, and it makes him feel like he's weighty and real, and like a lot of the moments in this movie do feel like music videos, but to the benefit of the movie, I would say.
When you talked earlier about musicals and how you don't like them, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like this song as a musical song like defies that. Like, this is my favorite song of the movie.
Yeah. This and Kickapoo are very similar in my opinion in that way.
I think that so I also really don't like music videos when it's just the band playing. Like I often really hate it. I prefer music videos where they film sort of a mini short movie and just have the music playing over top of it. But in something like this, where it's literally a battle between two people who are trying to play their music at each other to win. This is why I've always liked Tenacious D in general, is because like they're not just musicians who are telling you a story. There are musicians who are telling you a story about how their music like battles people. Like they're like bards from like D&D and shit. Like it's really good.
And I think that's probably why it crosses my like line of being okay for a musical. Yeah, because I don't really like musicals, but when you're singing about like I don't know, whatever La La Land is about, but like this is like about music, so it's like it's okay to sing about music, in a movie. Does that make sense? And so maybe my what's it called, like my disbelief or whatever is I'm not there yet. Whereas like most musicals, as soon as they start singing, I'm like thrown out. I'm like, why are they singing?
You're like,
that?
why are
It's
they
weird.
singing? This is not a story, but like in this, it's the singing is part of the story. They're supposed to be singing.
And this song especially, because obviously they're singing back and forth to like compete over this. Like it's part of the story.
Yeah,
That's why I liked Repo a lot. That's why I liked Tommy. That's why I liked The Wall.
See, I think that's why I didn't like Tommy or
I haven't
Repo.
seen any of these movies.
I didn't like Tommy or Repo as much as I liked Rocky Horror or this. I did like them.
This movie's more Rocky Horror than Tommy or Repo or Rocky Horror, I would say.
Because in Rocky Horror, it also feels like the music is, for the most part, I would say maybe the first song, Damn It, Janet, not so much, but the rest of it feels like, because they're aliens from fucking the planet transsexual of the galaxy Transylvania, is like, oh, I guess they just all sing there. Like that's how they communicate, kind of thing. Which isn't the case, but it feels that way because of the fact that they're literal aliens. And then in this, it's like, no, they use their music to fight. Like it's part of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a lot of musicals, like Genetic Opera, like it's just this post-apocalyptic world where people are harvesting each other's organs and like juices to like make themselves immortal or whatever. But they're singing because it's an opera. That's why they're singing. Like there's no other reason for them to be singing other than we want them to. Same with Tommy. But Rocky Horror in this, it's like the singing seems to be part of the world that they're in. So yeah, I agree with you completely, Matt, on that point.
But essentially,
what would you ask the devil for in a battle?
Jesus Christ. Man, I'd ask him for Car Chase City 6.
Nice.
I think I'd ask
like,
him.
The song though is so like, it's also like quintessential like Dave Grohl, like in how his like melody and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a classic, like, I'm the devil, I should do what I want.
Yeah,
like,
it feels very much like a Foo Fighters song for sure. Yeah.
Like a lot of Foo Fighters songs have that like do 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 do, like that. I don't know, melody. I don't know how to describe it, but like there go my hero. Like it's all like that kind of like note progression, melody progression.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a uniqueness to his voice when he sings too. That it's like unmistakably him when he's singing in this.
Yeah, we call it the Grohl roll.
The Grohl roll.
Yeah,
the Grohl roll.
Rolling like Grohl. You know, Grohl roll.
I remember also like when they and like the behind the scenes stuff of them recording their first album, they had him like, they called him like Dr. D. I think we got Dr. D on the drums.
I think it was Dr. G.
Dr. G.
Yeah.
Dr. G on the drums.
Well, like in the interview for this movie, they're like, yes, we have a very secretive person playing our final villain, but we can't tell you anything about it or who it is. They're exclusive. They've never been in a movie before. And then Kyle's like, yeah, he goes by the nickname Dr. G. And then they're both like, all right, we'll tell you. We got the devil himself. And then it cuts to Dave Grohl in like the full makeup. And he's like, yeah, I've never been in a movie before. You know, hopefully, you know, and I don't know if I'll ever be in one again. So I'm thinking Oscar.
Could you imagine if somehow, some way, Dave Grohl wins a fucking Oscar for his portrayal of Satanus?
Yeah.
They did a movie recently.
Yeah, they have
Studio 666.
Yeah, where they moved
but
into a house.
I can't find it anywhere. I think I could probably buy it.
It's probably you could probably sail the 7 seas for it. I would,
because like right when it came out, like Taylor Hawkins died like a week later. So I think it kind of poo-pooed.
I think we were thinking about doing it at some point, but we couldn't find like a month that it would slot into nicely. So maybe we'll revisit that idea because I would like to watch it.
If we do like an offbeat horror month or something.
And then we'll have Matt back to talk about it because he loves Dave Grohl so much.
It mustn't be very good because like, I haven't heard anyone talk about it.
That
doesn't matter.
Thinking. I know.
I mean, this movie is also not very good, guys, but we just talked about it for almost 3 hours.
And it's a horror comedy too, from what I understand. So like it fits in. It definitely fits the like vibe of the movies we talk about. So I think it might be worth just tracking down, even if the 3 of us just fucking watch it on stream or something.
Yeah. So are you gonna answer my question? What are you gonna ask Beelzebub for?
I wasn't kidding. I want Grand Theft Auto 6 so bad.
Oh, Matt.
So what? Like, what's the like? If I beat you, I get this.
Yeah, but Jason, you also have to put up what you're risking.
I put you up. So
Me?
Yeah.
All right.
We are kind of the Tenacious D in this situation. Your hairline.
Now you're implying that you're Jack Black and I'm Kyle Gass.
Yeah, because you're the talent and I'm the loud one.
Okay.
And I have to win in a rock off?
Yeah.
You know, Matt, you're looking a little like Lee to me right now, gotta say.
I don't know what I would ask.
I think he looks more like Dave Grohl, so maybe
That's
he's
true.
the devil.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
I already have everything I want.
Whoa. So you're going to be like, you know what, Mr. Devil, I'm not going to challenge you to a rock off. And then you just peace out.
I'll just join him.
Join him?
I commonly joke that I hail Satan. So
Yeah, hail Satan.
I had like, so you know on WhatsApp, like you can write like a little bio, right, or something. So mine on WhatsApp just says hail Satan.
I say hail Satan
but then,
all the time.
But then I never go into my settings and I see myself. So it's always been like that. So sometimes people bring it up. They're like, hail Satan. I was like, yeah, hail Satan. It's like random people I meet. I'm just like, I don't know.
You just think that everybody is saying hail Satan to you, but you're like, wow, so many people think just like me, but you've forgotten that it's in your bio.
But I stole my mom's phone once and I changed her bio to say hail Satan. And I think it still says it.
Our friends are all really concerned.
Are you a fan of the band Ghost, Matt?
Not really.
Well, they love Satan, so if you love Satan.
I'm sure there are many, many bands that love Satan.
Oh, every rock band in time.
I don't actually love Satan. I think
they just like to be provocative to everybody who hates Satan.
Yeah.
Hail Satan.
I would probably wish for the Death Note.
You're gonna give me shit earlier about anime, and you're like the Death Note. That's
well, listen, it's a powerful tool.
I'd wish for the Brown Note. Is that from Tenacious D or is that from South Park?
That's South Park.
Yeah. Also,
That's
it's
the
like
South Park
they've tried
movie,
to
in
figure
fact.
out if it's real or whatever. So maybe that'll be what I'm offering up to the devil. Is that he can use the brown note on me at any point, at any time, if I lose. Oh, God damn! I shit my pants again, guys. It wasn't me. It was Satan. Friends like Steve keeps shitting himself and blaming it on
drank
Satan.
too much whiskey last night, you asshole.
Yeah. It would be a power to have.
Just brown out at people.
Yeah. Would it clear a room or could you direct it at someone? And are you also affected by it?
I think
it has to be something you're offering to Satan, right? So, like, what you're offering is that you allow him to use the brown note on you at any point. But if you want the power to use the brown note at any point, like an X-Men, like Magneto or Professor X, or you're like,
who's the guy that like claps?
Everybody in the whole room shits themselves. It's like a shockwave.
Is that his name? Shockwave?
That's your name, Shockwave. Brownwave.
Brownwave. Yeah.
Oh fuck, my fucking horn. So the D battle Satan. They play some tasty licks against one another. Honestly, I think Satan may have won that battle, but they won with the power of heart. And it's a lot like the end of the tribute video where, like,
I don't know, man. I think that their version, their part in that song is so good. It's like it has this sort of like almost like country.
Yeah, it's like folk,
and
it's
like folk, country, gospel.
Yeah,
and then like
no, it's just like their brand of acoustic rock.
True.
But like those hard hitting chords, like ding 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 ding.
But like the way the singing of it, like it feels more something that you would hear in a church.
We are the D,
like,
we are the D, we are the D.
Well, it is very, and then there's a
little choir that comes in.
Yeah,
and then when it goes punk rock, it goes punk rock. We are the D, we are the D, we are the D, we are the D. That segment is like very punk, and then
I'm listening to it right now. Like there's like fast like double strokes.
You guys are fucking lame.
Come on, Cage, you're coming with me. And then he shoots a lightning bolt, and they block it with the guitar. Oh fuck! My fucking horn.
He doesn't block it with the guitar. He blocks it with the power of friendship. His sacrifice
through the guitar that he was purchased.
All right, Mr. Literal.
I'm Mr. Pedantic. Literally. I'm wearing my pedantic pants.
You're wearing your pedantic pajamas.
Tantalizing. No? Okay. Thank you.
Moving on.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Yeah, so I don't know if I got an answer out of you guys earlier before we move on to the very end. So I'll ask it before I ask the final question. What is your favorite Tenacious D song, either in this movie or outside it, or if you have one within the movie or outside the movie?
Well, I started to answer that question saying like I think this song is my favorite song in the movie
Right.
for like several reasons. I think it's a kick-ass song, but then it being more part of the story kind of thing. It's not just singing to tell you things. It's like yeah, part of the story.
It's not like the mission is clear. I'm going over there. I'm going to do the mission.
Yeah, exactly.
Flip around the corner.
Flat as a pancake, and then oh no, a camera.
Go down here, devise a plan.
Dive
so many,
into
like,
the bushes. Okay, we gotta stop.
Some ways, like the other songs, like I always love Kielbasa Sausage, like for like the guitar riff in that is just really good.
Yeah.
And like for like song quality, musician composership kind of thing, Wonder Boy is like the greatest song. The vocal melodies, the guitar, the chords, the guitar solo in that song is insane.
Holy shit!
I used to be quite.
I love it.
I used to be quite good at singing that song. I practiced it so many times.
The kid, that plays Jack Black's younger self.
Are you gonna name some bullshit TV show I've never heard of? Please don't.
Is the fucking?
Are you gonna say that he was also the son or the kid that played him in Nacho Libre, which I mentioned earlier?
And it's not a bullshit show that you probably haven't seen it, but it's the older brother from the Goldbergs, which is a great show about the 80s. It's a great.
Is that a show
sitcom.
About the goalie from the Mighty Ducks?
No. Okay. Well, never mind.
Or the wrestler from the WWE?
Nope. My favorite Tenacious D song might be the song from the first album, the first studio album, entitled Double Team.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're talking Double Team.
Yeah, now we're talking Double Team. Supreme!
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
What about the movie?
This from the movie, it's got to be. I think it's Kickapoo. It like Beelzebub is a second, like very close second, but Kickapoo has so many like moments and like celebrities and like it's got Meatloaf and Dio singing on the track. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like to call it the old. I call it the old meat Dio sandwich.
That's not like the song turns for me when it goes into those parts. Like I think the start of that song is so good.
How long is fucking time ago? Yeah,
he slice. I think it's when he gets a little bit too crude with the lyrics that sometimes it loses me a little bit now. Even back then, I was kind of like, all right, you don't need to talk about.
That's a riff they always use. That like. It's like they use it in tribute as well, like
yeah,
and it's the same riff from which like tribute, like I don't know if this is common knowledge or it's just my own theory. Like tribute is like basically a tribute, I think, to Stairway to Heaven.
I think the song they played was Stairway to Heaven, but this is the song about them playing the song that they played.
And the riff, the end of that song, what they play is like the Stairway to Heaven, like rock riff at the end.
Well, so in the TV,
and it's also in Kickapoo as well.
In the TV version of Tribute, it literally is completely different. Where it's like, and it saved our butts, ding 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 ding, and they're literally playing the riff from Stairway to Heaven.
But this movie kind of changes it because now it seems like Tribute may be a song about them playing this song, Beelzebub.
Yeah, I mean, all right, we don't need to get too far into our own headcanons here, but yes, that's
never let me get into my own headcanons.
It's because your headcanon is full of bats and flying monkeys.
This is headcanons with
playing
Jason.
You're playing with those like Jack in the Boxes, like a bunch of them, like
ting, 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 yes. ting, ting, ting. Okay, so anyway, they defeat Satan and then they go back and they smoke some weed.
I didn't get to say my answers. You guys keep answering the question and then not letting me say my answers. So maybe I'll stop asking the question.
No, Steve, I like the question. Steve, answer the question that you've
posed. In the movie, it's probably Master Exploder, but I really like the "Can't you see he's the man? Let me hear you applaud. He's more than a man. He's a shiny golden god."
That's also on Tenacious D by Tenacious
they
D.
were the first album.
Yeah. So I guess, but on the original album, my favorite song is probably Wonder Boy, but I do really like, no, I'll go with Wonder Boy. Yeah, Wonder Boy is the one. Just because it's beautiful and it's got all the fantasy elements that I like. I even drew pictures of what I thought Wonder Boy and Nasty Man looked like. And the Monkey Muck Land.
I think of Wonder Boy to look like Tetsuo with the fucking half cape from Akira.
I kind of made him look like a superhero, like a classic sort of 40s superhero mixed with an anime character.
Do you know what my favorite Tenacious D song is overall out of everything?
Well,
it's Jesus Ranch. And they only recently, in the last few years, put out a Jesus Ranch like demo that it didn't make it to the album. It's from that episode, Jesus Ranch. And
my actual favorite song is the one from that Sasquatch episode where he breaks his guitar and then they see Sasquatch and he's like, there were some scientists, because it has that sort of like ding 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 in search of Sasquatch
Nimoy, kicking out the jam. Yeah. But Matt, what's your actual favorite Tenacious D song?
Let's just name all of them. But I do like the version of Tribute in the show.
The one note song.
Like in many ways,
we're fucking singing.
Inward singing.
Yeah, inward singing. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the bendy part. Ding 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 ding.
The version of Tribute in the TV show, though subpar compared to the actual, like the radio version in a lot of ways, has some bits and pieces of it that are so much more superior, but I think they just weren't allowed to release it as a single because it adapted and borrowed too much from other music. A thing that would no longer happen anymore, by the way. There's a musical company that has been using AI to generate every possible riff of music and copywriting it and then releasing it to public domain so that anybody that tries to claim like, this is my tune that I made and I'm going to sue you for using it, you can go to this bank of music that is owned by this like legal company and be like, actually it's not, see, we already own it and we put it to the public domain so nobody owns it, so anyone can use it, kind of thing. Which it just like gives musicians like more musical freedom, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, I thought it was used for malicious intent, but
no, it's like incredible. The complete opposite. Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but I just heard about it recently, and I was like, this is humanity being good.
That's why I was immediately like, no, that's
wait a minute.
That sounds.
They're using AI not to fuck artists right up their booties.
Booty.
So yeah, the Sasquatch song is my favorite because take a look at the plastic cast. It's not human. Now you know he's real. Real. Take a look. Okay, anyway. I love that song. It's my favorite song of all Tenacious D. I wish that they would do a 10-minute version of it. The other question that I had is following the battle. So, they knock the horn off, then they walk into the moonlight, and we cut back to them and they're looking sort of into nothingness. And they at first you think they're stoned, but they're just like in awe at their own capabilities. They're not stoned yet. I mean, they probably are, but like, let's just imagine they aren't. They're clear-headed for once. And they're talking about the song, and then it's very much like the idea of the episode of Tribute where the police are like, well, what did the song sound like? And he's like, well, we can't. It's just a tribute to the greatest song in the world. And then they decide to start writing Tribute. I do really wish that the end of the movie, instead of them being like, it's the pick, like it just started with the beginning of like the beginning riffs to Tribute. Like that would have been great, really cool. Yeah. But
that's not how you sell movies.
That would also only be exciting for anybody who is.
Imagine going to this movie having like what Matt was saying at the top of the show. Like you go to the movies that weekend, you're like, this comedy might be funny, and you have no idea what the Tenacious D thing is. You're like,
you wouldn't find it funny. I don't think.
You would be like, what the?
You'd be like, what am I watching?
Is this one of those stoner comedies?
Well, I was just bitching to Steve about how Star Wars and Marvel, all need to get any of their stuff. You need to have watched, 40 hours of something else.
Yeah.
I definitely
and
didn't
then this is
hear
exact-
about this argument at all.
We were
and
talking
also
specifically
feel
about Ahsoka, but there is something to be said about like there are some people that don't feel that way, I guess because they just don't process information the same way. If they're seeing something that's visually exciting to them and they're being given enough information to figure out, to fill in the blanks, I guess, they'll still have a good time, right? So I was talking to one of our friends, and he hasn't watched any of Rebels as well, but he has the complete opposite opinion of you, which is the show fucking rules. It's the best Star Wars I've seen in a long time. And you are like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
It's visually cool. It's not like, there's no kids on like modified bikes that look like mod scooters
bike
or whatever.
gangs. Yeah.
I kind of
Scooter
liked
guy.
that. It was dumb as fuck, but I was
like the
what-
Boba Fett scooter gang.
I want to
Your
know,
favorite Star Wars characters.
if you got to ask where those characters are when they're not on screen, kind of thing. Like, and I wanted to know where they were. You always have to be asking where they are.
I mean, I didn't mind them either. A lot of people were really like up in arms about it, and they're like, they should be on Coruscant. I'm like, Coruscant is now on Tatooine, baby. That's what's happening to the galaxy. That you're a boomer now. You're a Star Wars boomer. You're like, who are these fucking kids on their scooter bikes in my
to that
Tatooine?
point, I think you could see this movie having no idea what Tenacious D was or Jack Black or anything, because I think it does tell the story, and I think that's partially the reason why I think it's repetitive. That it's like, this is all stuff I've known.
Right.
It's like the lore of their show and everything that's just told slightly differently.
I think
filling in some gaps or whatever. So
the other thing though is that it is just a collection of like goofy moments, right? Like there's not really any kind of real character development that happens throughout the movie. It's just goofy moments that are
but
stapled
it
together.
should have then been
with
like,
guitar riffs going.
Well, like if the TV show takes place like after this, then it should be more like a legit prequel than rather than a few repetitive kind of bits.
Yeah,
where it's like,
I mean, I've said it multiple times throughout the review, or not review, whatever the discussion. This is not a good movie. It's not. It's just a movie that exists that I really happen to enjoy, but I'm not going to recommend this to many people.
No.
If they don't like Tenacious D already, or if at least they don't like things that are similar to Tenacious D. One thing that I will...
Should we go into our final thoughts? That's very fun.
Well, we should go into the question, because I was going to ask the question and I got interrupted somehow and I can't remember how. But I do want to say one thing, though, is that Tenacious D as an entity and a thing that I've liked for so long has also helped me connect to other people in a really easy way. As soon as I learned that somebody else likes Tenacious D, either through like, you make a quote or you sing a riff.
Vibe check.
It is a vibe check, and if you check the box, you almost immediately gravitate to another person. And
there's a few possibilities. It's like you mentioned Tenacious D, and they're like, "Oh, I haven't really heard it." And then it's like you show it to them, and they like it.
Yeah.
Then yes, you pass. Or if they already know it and they like it, they pass. But if they know it and they don't like it's like, who are you?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Weird Al
we
is
can't
a
be
similar thing
very
to that.
Well, I mean, Jason, I think it's one of the reasons that I gravitated towards you is that somehow we were at a party or something, and like some sort of Tenacious D thing happened, and we both like sang the end of a sentence or something, and then we like looked at each other and we're like, "Wait, you know the dude? Yeah, I know the dude. Let's be best friends now." And that that happens often, and very rarely have I met somebody who I cannot stand who is a very big Tenacious D fan, or like at least to the level that I am or any of you guys are.
And there's also like, who they are. It's like, yeah, I've heard some of their songs. Right? Oh, that's that band with Jack Black. Like, there's that. It's like, no, do you know like the stories, the tale?
The tales
do you know all the lyrics to every song?
Do you know like how they?
Can you sing it?
Do you know how they paid the rent that week? But like, you will meet someone every once in a while who's like, you're like, what's your favorite Tenacious D song? And they're like, the one about fucking. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
you heard
all
somebody sing that at karaoke one time.
Yeah, and you
goofy.
love it. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
You don't always have to fuck her hard.
But like, there's a lot of like,
Junior.
I don't sing that one anymore because it's now probably offensive.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you got to throw out with the bathwater or whatever. The Phoenix Ashes. Sweep that song up with the Phoenix Ashes and just don't play it anymore. Sorry, what you're saying, Matt?
Like, there's like I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of it, but like these kind of cultural things. There's like a bit of a backstory to kind of you have to get into it a bit to pass the vibe check or whatever. So it's like there's other things like that too. I just can't think of any.
For sure.
But
it's like, if somebody you've known for, 26 years tells you that Ahsoka sucks and you're like, what? The what? Just kidding. Are you watching Rebels or are you
okay.
Listen, I'm not getting into a huge conversation about it. It's a yes or no question, Jason. Let him answer.
I haven't yet, no.
Okay.
I will.
All right.
Steve told me specifically that I could just.
Question,
Steve told me specifically that I could just watch a recap video, and that's probably what I know.
Well, I sent the recap video to Matt, and he's like, "Well, I might want to just watch the show." I was like,
but
"Okay,
also,
we'll do that."
See, the problem is me and my wife watch all the Star Wars and Marvel shit, right? And I told Madison, I was like, you kind of.
But I also just told you that my friend, one of our mutual friends who likes Star Wars just as much as the two of us, was able to watch it and didn't care that he hasn't seen it. But he was like, I'll fill in the blanks myself.
I'm the problem because I have a thing where I need to I haven't watched Doctor Who because it's impossible to watch all of Doctor Who because Doctor Who.
Finally, the straight white male admits that he's the problem.
Oh, I'll admit every day that I'm the problem.
And surprise, surprise, he likes Doctor Who.
I don't. You sons of bitches, turn my words. I'm sorry.
He wishes he liked Doctor Who.
Yeah,
he's twisting my words like a sonic screwdriver to the abdomen.
You.
Anyway, what was your question?
Yeah,
it's getting late.
The final question.
Past my bedtime time.
It's true. It's true.
Okay. So the final question is, if you were to find a chunk of a demon, the horn, we'll specifically say the horn, after a fight with him, and you could craft that horn into any object, and the object you craft would be a reflection of the ability that it gives you, just as the pick does give them musical ability through stringed instruments. The thing that you craft would give you some sort of power as well.
Flute. Money flute.
Yeah. Money playing.
I play the flute. I get money.
Just a flute? Really?
I think that's what you could fashion a horn into.
No, you can. The material can be made into pretty much anything.
Flute.
I still pick flute. You're just playing it like a horn, like
no, but
you're playing the Austin Powers theme over and over again for some reason.
I get money.
I get money from my flute. All right. All right. I didn't expect that answer from you, but okay, Matt. Also flute. It's like flute as well.
Flutes are cool. Jethro Tull.
Jethro Tull, exactly.
Our 7th grade music teacher.
It plays Aqualung, and that's it. And I get money.
Money. I don't know. Time machine.
A whole ass time machine? You're turning that thing into a time machine?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I was trying to go like the tooth was turned into a guitar pick. Horn turns into flute. This guy's like, nope, outside the box.
Time machine.
Time machine.
I have like 3 or 4 different answers because I'm like, what you craft it into will probably be a representation of the power that you would be able to use it for, right?
Yeah, time travel.
Time travel. It's like a hat. You put it on, and you're like, oh, you set your watch to like, I'm going back to 1985.
I just want to hear Aqualung, and then I want money.
And then it pans over to Jason. He's like, flute, flute, flute. He used the extra bits to make his flute. Okay.
You can only pick one though. You said you have 3.
I said I have a few, but yeah. I mean, the
I've
first thing
3, everyone knows that.
The first thing that I thought of was that I would turn it into a handle for a paintbrush, and then I would like put the paintbrush bristles on the end of it, and like so I could like replace the bristles, but like the because I'm an illustrator in real life, right? So like, and I'm not like the greatest artist who ever lived, but if I had a paintbrush,
but maybe he would make you the greatest.
Yeah, exactly. The devil's bones would make me into an amazing artist. And then I was like, okay, so if that's how I think it would work, like, if you made it into a paintbrush, you'd be able to paint like amazing images. what if you wanted to be like a really good fighter or something, right? You could make it into like brass knuckles, and you'd be like a Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, or like you make it into a cell phone case, and you could like manipulate through like stock apps and stuff. You could like manipulate like trading influences and stuff, and like all sorts. And then my brain just went down like this like rabbit hole of like everything you could forge this horn into. But you guys are thinking your flutes and time machines. I guess that's fine too, you weirdos.
My flute also.
Way to think inside the box.
My flute also time travels. So
yeah, I just have to play a song from any era, and I'll go back there.
To only significant time periods where a flute was involved.
Yeah, but I keep just playing the fucking Green Ranger song to go back to 1993.
You just keep landing on like a battlefield where they have like flute people.
Like, shit, not again.
Different lines. Like, God damn it, cannonballs.
Hockey mask, but one of those like goalie masks that Jason wears.
I'm Jason.
Jason Voorhees.
Oh, fuck.
The horrible murderer of teenagers.
Well, Jason Phillips, the horrible murderer of teenagers.
Anyway, you could make anything, I suppose, but like the question in my mind was like, what do you think the power would be that you would get from that?
It took me
object?
like
what power do
you prepped me, and I still couldn't come up with it. And at some point during the 3 hours we just talked about the D, I was like, flute, obviously flute, because they make it into a bong.
Well, I think that you got trapped in the idea that it has to be a musical instrument. It has to resemble the horn itself.
I like the mask idea.
But I guess the comedy in it is like before it was a tooth or something so small, like we crafted it in something that had such power. It's like now you have something so big, you could craft it in something, whatever you want. Power. They just turn it into a bong.
Mm-hmm.
That's the comedy.
Yeah,
for sure.
But it blows that green mist. But
I mean, like the implication, I guess, is that you smoke out of it, and it'll give you like a little bit of inspiration to write something good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
weed does that and is green.
It's true.
That's the joke.
They could have made like 20 picks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, they could have made a guitar out of it.
Yeah,
a whole guitar, or a guitar neck,
or a flute,
or a flute, or like like trumpeters when they have that thing on the end, or like made one of those little covers for a trumpet.
Pretty sure it's just like the bottom of a plunger.
That's what I always thought it was.
Of course. And it has to be a used plunger. It cannot be a brand new one.
No, poop covered.
It has to have those toilet miles on it.
Do you want to do some final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have anything else really question wise.
Thank you for your questions, though. That was very insightful of you, Steve.
Final thoughts. Should I go? Oh,
it's time for our final thoughts.
Why doesn't that one get DMCA'd? That's
because nobody remembers that stupid show. I stole that music from America's Funniest Home Videos.
That's true.
Well, now it's gonna be whatever you said.
Yeah, Bob Saget, his hand gonna burst out of the dirt and be like, ah!
That'd be a good movie. Bob Saget returns as Bob Saget Man. I don't know. Just like at the top of the show, we like to talk about our history of the movie. At the end of the show, we like to say our in summation, our final thoughts about the movie. Typically, what we do here is we do a mix of final thought, give it an actual rating if you want, give it a joke rating if you need to, and then what went well, even better. So I'll go first to show you sort of how the flow of it goes. I didn't really write one for this because I think we covered it. I like Tenacious D. Not everybody likes Tenacious D. I like this movie. It's not a great movie. However, to me, it is a great movie. Therefore, I give it like a 3 out of 5. Most people would probably give it like a 2 out of 5. But I'm going to stick at like a 3 to 3.5 out of 5. But I do give this movie a series of insane rock operas throughout an entire month that actually just end up in 2 naked fat guys smoking weed.
Right.
What went well? The music? Even better? Like, Matt, you really struck a chord with me when you said this movie is repetitive, and I wanted to defend that, but it's not. I think that as far as these kinds of movies that are like road trip movies, essentially, like the first quarter of the movie, or the first, it's, if you look at it as 3 acts, the first act of the movie is just a series. It's kind of like the HBO TV show, and then it turns into this road trip movie, but it's really paint by numbers. And I think, Steve, you put that in my head, the paint by numbers element of it. Ultimately, I highly recommend watching it if you're a fan of Tenacious D. But if you're a fan of Tenacious D, you've seen this movie multiple times. I can't really recommend it to somebody that doesn't know anything about Tenacious D. But I might be able to recommend the first Tenacious D album to somebody that knows nothing about the D, I guess.
Yeah, if you first discover them, like,
yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there right now that's just like, I like Jack Black, and it's like, oh, he has this band, and then you kind of go down a wormhole. Like, that'd be fun.
Exactly.
I envy those people.
So, with that sort of template, Matt, let me throw it over to you. What are your final thoughts for The Pick of Destiny?
This has always been like one of those movies of like, oh, I want to watch something, but don't want to pay attention and don't want to think too much. Like, it's just like a feel good comedy that you can also like kind of watch in the background, or like I'm making food or something, like, but one of those movies where it's like, what do we want to watch? Something that I can fall asleep to or whatever. And that's, I think, one of these movies.
I thought you were going to say, and that's like every movie I've ever watched.
Yeah, but like, I'm happy to watch this because it's just like, yeah, it's almost like a throwaway movie. Seen it a bunch. I know all the songs. I haven't watched it in a while though. So yeah. So in terms of rating, 6.66 out of 10.
That's
a real rating and a joke rating at the same time.
Perfect, actually.
Slow down, I'm gonna spurt. Sorry.
I guess that just leaves.
Do you believe in God?
Do you believe in God? I believe.
I believe.
I believe in God.
I believe in God.
Oh, sorry, Matt. Do you have a what went well, even better moment? Like, do you have like what you liked, what you didn't like?
I don't know. It's hard. I think like what I mentioned before. The things that didn't go well is like the start of it being kind of repetitive. Like the whole like the rock slides and the like all in their apartment. It's like that's just their TV show. So they're paying homage, I guess, to the TV show. But it's like, okay, I get it. Like I want more.
Yeah, it does make it feel
deep.
sort of like, oh, you guys told those jokes already and you're telling them again. It's like if you go to a comedy club and then you go to a comedy club like 3 weeks later and the same comic is telling the same jokes and you're like, this guy told these jokes 3 weeks ago, except they had like years to come up with new jokes,
Or 3 weeks. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what kind of never worked for me. I think when I first saw the movie, I was more anticipating like new stuff, but still, yeah. The rock works. Rock is good. Guitars are good. I'm always a fan of music.
God damn it, Cage.
Is it my turn?
He's a force. I think people know he's a great singer and performer, but I think he's still underrated for what he is.
It's because he gets lumped in as a comedic singer. Like when he's singing, like he's singing so well, but people are like, oh, he's so funny. But it's like, no, he's singing beautifully right now. It's like, yeah, but it's funny that he's doing that because like, listen to him.
He's like silly.
Yeah. He's a silly guy.
Yeah, like some of the, like you mentioned it, Jason, like what was that song they recently came out with, the cover? Did Everybody Hurt?
No, it's Wicked Game. Wicked Game by that fucking guy from the 90s. I'll never fall in love with you.
He sings that so well.
And they also they do a mashup of You Never Give Me Your Money and another Beatles song that was just a live thing, and they released it like it's on Spotify, and I think they're going. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Tenacious they've reached that part of their career where the next album naturally is a covers album, and I think they have enough.
What would that album be called?
Tenacious D Undercovers?
No, tribute.
Oh yeah.
Jason just quit the show. He's like, I gotta.
Last week, Jason quit the show. That really happened to us recently, and he's not coming back again. No.
Yeah, la, 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 la.
Yeah, Steve,
hit us with your accoutrement.
Yeah, I think I've kind of made it clear my feelings on this movie throughout the episode so far. I do like it, and it's because I like Tenacious D. And as I said about Rocky Horror last week, Rocky Horror came about in my life in a point where I was a little confused, a little lost, and in need of something to show me that what I'm feeling was not necessarily bad, and that's what that movie gave me. And I'm sure that I articulated it quite well in the episode last week. Did I? I don't know. I was really tired. I can't remember. But
it was a good episode.
Yeah, this movie, or sorry, not this movie, but Tenacious D did something similar where it allowed me something to cling on to that I enjoyed artistically and also comedically, and it made me, through emulation and through appreciation and through camaraderie and catharsis with people like Matt, who I've known nearly my entire life now, Tenacious D was like a bonding moment for you and I. And like, I do truly believe that it made us better friends. Like, just the fact that we both liked it so much, it made us like each other more, you know? And I don't know if you've thought about it in a long time, but like, you and I have musically performed Tenacious D dozens of times, maybe, like many times.
At parties, on stages,
yeah,
at weddings.
We've done it, and it's been years since I've been able to like even practice singing because I'm too scared to do it now in like a residential apartment building, where if I start like scream singing, people are going to be like, is somebody being murdered via Jack Black in there? But I just don't get the opportunity to do it anymore. And it makes me sad a little bit. And even before COVID, I would go to karaoke bars and I would flex the muscles at least a little bit and get the stuff out. But I feel a little pent up, you know? And Tenacious D was one of those things that, you know, it became important to me very close to when I got a car, and I was able to anonymously drive around with no one else to be able to hear me singing as loudly and as strongly as I possibly could. And it was great. And it actually helped me learn to sing, which was cool. The show was amazing. The first album was amazing. The second album was amazing, which was the soundtrack to this movie. And the movie I liked a lot when I saw it for the first time. And I still liked it when I saw it again this week, which probably has been a little bit over 10 years since I've watched this movie, but I did still enjoy it. I don't know if I can recommend it to everybody. I wouldn't recommend this to my mom. I wouldn't recommend this to, you know, like a person that I don't really know that well. I would probably have to get to know somebody, not intimately, but like well enough that I felt comfortable recommending them weird things that I enjoy before I recommended it to them. But you know, ultimately, if you get to know somebody well enough, you'll be comfortable recommending this or not based on what you know about them. Because Tenacious D is something that it's pretty clear cut on who's going to enjoy it and who's not based on personality.
Tenacious D has also been a band in this movie. Like, there's been a few times where it's surprised me of someone liking it or referencing it. It's like, oh, you, and it's like we mentioned before, like a vibe check kind of moment. Of
my
like,
mom would like this movie. She likes actors that she knows, and she knows Jack Black. So the whole time she'd be like, "That's Jack Black in this movie."
I know this person.
And she likes weird, gross humor. So,
like, I had an old girlfriend around the time this movie came out. It was when I was dating.
How old was she?
How weird was she?
But her dad was a very serious, like, businessman, very successful, and like he like randomly he was like, oh yeah, like I think it was like a little clip on TV or something. I don't know how it came up. He's like, oh, I really like that movie. I was like, yeah. I was like, you like that movie? It's like, yeah. Like sometimes like silly movies, they're just good. They're silly because they're silly, and I like that. It was like it's like sometimes you don't need to like you kind of broke it down. It's like you don't need to think very hard. Just silly, just laugh, silly for silly's sake. And I was like, geez, yeah, you're totally right. Like you don't need
This
to
is why you're so
overthink it.
successful, sir.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like immediately after, I was like, did you and your dad like that movie? She was like, what? What movie? I'm
She's like,
you
the
don't
pick of
pass
what?
the check. You don't pass the buy check.
I'm out of here. And then you married her
guys.
dad. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess in terms of what went well, what could have been better. Or wait, is that how it goes? I'm really close to like sneaking over the hill with a sniper rifle and murdering this segment. What went well? What could have?
It's what went well even better, but
There we go.
it is an artifact. So if we want to,
It's also redundant in the sense that when you're doing your outro, you can just say those things.
also, do you know what's funny about that? This is a little side note. He fully got that from like a corporate speak, like a
Oh, really?
from
Like a team building exercise?
yes.
Oh God.
I think that we
All right,
might,
guys,
Team
now let's
building
play Two
exercise,
Truths and a
man.
Lie.
exactly. I think we might want to, like we got rid of a couple other things that
Yeah,
we
hang
do.
it.
I think that one's going to be hung on the pike.
Get rid of it. Put it up to the rafters. Retire that jersey.
All right, just let's do your rating at least. Ratings stay.
Okay. My
You
rating.
gotta rate it.
Yeah. My
'Cause
rating.
his ratings are always the funniest shit.
What? Don't pump my butt so
I'm gonna
hard
pump your
about it.
butt so hard about it.
My rating for this movie is a super fan. I'm gonna rename myself Lee, and I'm gonna knock on the apartment building of two strangers and say, "Here's your za," and then say, "Whoa, can I come in?" And then lend them my car, and then call them and be really concerned that they're crashing my car, but believe them because I love them so much that they would never harm my car. And then say, "Well, good luck at the big meeting, guys. See ya," and then hang up. I
mean,
believe in the D.
That's as good as it. That's as good as it goes, buddy.
I believe in the D. I am Lee.
I believe in the DM Lee. So coming into this episode, finishing this movie off this afternoon, thinking, hey, how could we possibly talk about this for more than 25 minutes, and putting down another
In
3
3
hours.
hours, I'm gonna fall asleep.
3 fucking hours. Matt, thank you for coming on the
I
show.
could have watched this
again.
movie twice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You literally could have. Matt, thank you.
And I couldn't. I for some reason couldn't have found time to watch it before this.
Hey, we all have
I found
lives.
time to do 3 hours. I would have been asleep
Yeah.
2 hours ago.
But thank you for coming on the show again. As always, we have to ask the question we ask each and every week, and that is, hey, did you see this one? We're trying to streamline some things. We can't seem to streamline the middle part that's 3 hours long. That will come with practice. We are, of course, on the final little bit here, so if you want to tell a joke or whatever, you got about 4 seconds.
No,
I remember when like I first bought this CD, it was me and you and a collection of people whose all their names I don't remember anymore, and I've just named them after individual names that come up within the album of the first Tenacious D album. Do you remember that guy who like looked like he was melting and his mouth was always dry? He's the Mucky Muck Man.